I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay, we'll start with public hearing on a local law that amends Chapter 212 of the Code of the Town of Lewisboro entitled Vehicle and Traffic.
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. So I'll go back to describing what the public hearing is. So the public hearing is the installation of stop signs on Mead Street, both in the northbound direction of travel and the southbound direction of travel at the intersection of Long Pond Road. Does anyone here have anything to say regarding this local law change? And you have to come up to the podium, your name, Hamlet, and you have 3 minutes. Okay.
I don't have a lot to prepare. My name is Philip Kuhnhart. I live exactly at the spot where you're speaking about for these two stop signs. And I'm very, very happy it's going to happen. It's been a bad spot for quite some time. Not only accidents occurring nearby, head-ons in some cases of cars speeding north, other cars coming up from the south, can't see each other. Boom, they come to my house to get help. Also, it's just, sitting out on a quiet summer day, trucks and cars going through there, leaning on their horns the whole way through. It's just becoming more and more of a bad habit. And I do think it's going to be, I'm sorry in a way to see the urbanization of our area, which used to be so quiet and pastoral when the north side of it was all dirt. You remember the North Salem side was unpaved. And it was just a wonderful country hills. And now it's become a highway. So we need to add these stop signs. I'm glad you're doing it. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? How about over Zoom, Janet?
No.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next we have, oh, sorry, yeah, all right, so.
Motion to make a type 2 determination and to adopt local law number
12.
12?
Notice and publish.
Okay.
So moved
So
as
moved.
articulated by council.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have the first public comment. Anyone here would like to come up and say anything?
So I'm Pastor Tim Wagner of the Croton Falls Community Church, but I had the honor of burying Lois Reynolds, 106 years old, who was the final member of the church. And so normally a church like this would go to American Baptist churches. We're a sister organization, or a community church, and it would be evaluated and sold off. I think that would be a loss to your community, maybe a loss to our tradition. And so we, along with Maureen, are trying to save the building. American Baptist Churches is aware of this. We have so far secured the roof. We are about to turn the electric back on, pull permits to do it. And so we're looking to the community to support this because we want to be a bridge so that Lewisboro has this wonderful resource in the future. 1791. If you haven't been there, please come down. We're planning a Christmas Eve service at 4 p.m. I'm going to turn over to Billy because he's going to tell you why he loves that church.
So for me,
Billy, could you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, I'm Deacon Billy Bowen from Croton Falls Community Church, and I live in Croton Falls. So for me, when Pastor Tim, he always drags me into these things. I was looking at it and I was like, oh great, what did he get me dragged into now? And the bell wasn't working, so I went up, me and a friend of mine, we fixed the bell real quick, and he rang it while we were up there. And as my head was still ringing, we came down, and I just looked off the balcony, and you could hear the rustling of people, you could hear the hymns, you could feel God's presence in there. And the bell was still had a little chime to it. And you could just feel that there was something there and that there can be more there in the future. And so, we rang the bell a couple times and it brought people had no idea there was a bell in the bell tower. So we want to keep the bell ringing. We want to restore the church into its building. So this way, people in our future, I have grandchildren, our grandchildren can enjoy it. Our children can enjoy it. And so let's keep the bell ringing. You'll see this out. I have donation forms if you need any. We really want to do this. This is more for you guys than it is for us. So we need your guys' help to get this done. We hope that you'll keep the bell ringing and we're excited about it. We're working with Maureen. So we just want to let you know if you see activity there, what our goal is. We're not looking to come in and we're looking to give back to the community this beautiful resource. Hey, if you see us stop by, I'll give you a tour. If you're brave enough to go up to the bell, I'll bring you to the bell.
Thanks.
Maureen Cole, the Lewisboro town historian, and I let these wonderful, very enthusiastic gentlemen go first. As Tim said, that he did the celebration of life services for Lois Reynolds, who was the last surviving member of the Cross River Baptist Church. That was back in July. The church is our oldest public building in Lewisboro. That older than any of the governmental buildings, older, even though there are other churches with older congregations, their churches have burned down. This is the only church that has survived since 1791 when it was first built. And we've been trying, and I think Tony came, he took a tour, Peter Parsons took a tour. I've been working with our supervisors and with other people to try to find a way to save the church. Well, unfortunately, Lois passed away. Tim gave the celebration of life and it put a little new life into this church. So and as a church, I think that, I don't know if they got it across, it's not to reopen it as a church with a congregation. It's to open it as the Cross River Meeting House, which means it's open for all sorts of events. It's not just by law to keep your tax exempt status, you have to have a religious ceremony once a year. If we do the church in Advent, Christmas Eve, that gives us our one service a year. But it's open, it will be open when it's restored, when the Friends of the Cross River Meeting House reach their $50,000 goal on the sign there. It will be open for meetings, it will be open for gatherings as well as be a house of worship, but it's expanding its idea for the community. So, and they offered a tour. I'll offer, if anybody wants to have I've got a key, they've got a key, let me know. Be happy to give anybody a tour. I don't often climb up into the belfry, but it's there and it's a great bell. So thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Maureen, I just want to ask a question. So if I'm understanding you correct, so as long as you have the religious service one time a year, community organizations would be able to have access?
Yes, and that's what a meeting house was way back when. The library across, well, not the library, it was the library. John Russell's Antique Shop was originally in the 1840s, the Presbyterian meeting house. And that's where you guys would have been sitting if you were holding your meetings in 1840. A meeting house, even though it might have been a religious place, was open for other meetings as well.
So like groups like seniors and
So
scouts.
it's not just to start it as a
Possibly.
Baptist church. There are no, I can't say this for sure, there are very few Baptists left in Cross River. And that's why the congregation kind of fell apart, except for the Reynolds, who were founding members of the church.
And what's the address so people know if want to drive by? It's on.
It's just south of the entrance to Boundary.
Yes, it's right on reservation, just off Reservation Road. It's been there for 240 odd years, and some people say, "Oh, I never saw that church." But it sits up on the knoll, looking out over the reservoir, and if you sit in that church on an afternoon when the sun is in the west, you sit there and you, wow,
Yeah.
you are back into 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's breathtaking.
And there are cushions on the pews.
Thank you.
Indications.
Thank you.
Federal.
Is there anybody else here who would like to partake in public comment?
About over Zoom?
Yes. Simone O'Connor, I'm asking you to unmute.
Good evening. With the county's budget going up 5.6% and utilities rising into the double digits over the next 3 years, I believe voters have made it pretty clear that affordability is of paramount importance to voters in Lewisboro, the county, the state, and the country, regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican. And we were just told that KLSD just released a $20 million proposal for universal pre-K. However, with our fund balance being so healthy, exceeding $7 million, we should not have to break the tax cap. We should be able to adopt a budget within the cap and have our strong police department run by the very best police chief get what they need, and make sure our highway department is well funded, which allows our highway superintendent, the best we've had, continue road improvements he's begun and service our infrastructure. I believe these two departments are needs, not wants, being run by two strong and innovative leaders. We're lucky to have them both, and that needs to be reflected in their respective budgets without breaking the tax cap. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Simone. Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute. Barbara just. She disappeared. Barbara will come back. Barbara?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, it wasn't allowing me to unmute. I have a couple of questions regarding some of the presentations that are coming up, and I want to ask them before the people approach the microphone. The first has to do with the KG&D presentation regarding the new police building. I want to begin by saying I am 100% in support of a dedicated building. My question, though, where is this building being proposed? Nowhere on the schematics attached to the agenda does it say where the building is, where this potential building may be. Now, if it's on the site of the old police building on Spring Street near Route 35, back in May, I sent an email to the board asking if that spot could be used, torn down, expanded upon, rebuilt. Tony, you had gotten back to me. You told me the location was an option, but not ideal in any way, and that you would rather not have the police department located there, that there were challenges with that parcel. So my question is, if that's where this particular building is being proposed to be placed, I'd like to know what has changed since that exchange we had. What are the challenges in addition to the wetland issues? How will the town be addressing these issues? And if it's just the police building, which it does look like, where is the court then going? That's my first question. The second has to do, I think there's going to be a presentation regarding cell tower, long overdue. I went to a meeting in 2018, and even back then it had been on the agenda for several years. One of the things that came up was the dead spot on 138 between Increase Miller and the highway. And the main problem over there is the topography, because it's kind of a small valley on 138. So I'm wondering if, along with any kind of progress we're making with a cell tower finally on 35, if the town is going to address the dead spot over on our site over in Golden's Bridge. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Barbara. Mary Ann, if you could state your full name, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hello, my name is Mary Ann Lustineau, and I'm a 32-year resident of Lewisboro, and I reside in Golden's Bridge. And as a resident, I urge the board to cut unnecessary or low-impact spending and reallocate those funds to the departments that truly serve the entire community: our highway department, our police department, and parks and recreation. These are essential services that affect public safety, road safety, and the quality of life in Lewisboro. Funding lower priority programs at the expense of these core services is just not responsible. At the same time, we all care about taxes and affordability. By trimming waste and focusing on high-impact needs, the board can protect essential services without burdening residents with higher taxes. So it's time to be smart and prioritize wisely and make sure that every dollar serves the greatest number of people in our town. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mary Ann. Joe Mano, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. I would like to reinforce what Marianne just said. Actually, exactly what she just said, I think was wonderful. As we live in a world where inflation is currently around 3% annually, and we look at other people who live in our community, not everyone has the same financial resources. I think keeping the budget at a similar rate of inflation really would serve the entire community the best. And I think if you look at people who are seniors, who are maybe living off a fixed income, I think if you look at the inflationary raises that we've seen in our property taxes and in our school taxes over the past 10 years, it is by far exceeding inflation. So I'd like to reiterate exactly what Marianne said. I think keeping the highway department and the police department is critical. Both of those services, exactly as she mentioned, really serve everyone in the community. And I think if you look at other expenses that are spent, we should look at every single line with a tooth and comb to make sure we go through each one to see what is necessary and who is benefited by each of these things. And if we could somehow come out with a budget that is similar to the inflationary rate or the tax cap rate, which is somewhere around 3%, I think that would be the best way to manage our fiscal budget with the most responsible answer to the biggest population of people living in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Joe. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Janet. Okay, next we have communications. I have one item which Andrew's going to read, and it's regarding our police officer, Bill Fraterola.
This is an email from Kristen Kelly. It reads, "Hello, Officer Fraterola. I'm Kristen Kelly, the South Salem resident you helped the evening of November 11th, Veterans Day. A buck jumped out and hit my car on Route 35, and you arrived on the scene shortly after my panicked call to 911. I wanted to thank you again for your help and support. I was in a heightened emotional state for several reasons. Luckily or unluckily, this was my first time in a vehicle accident animal situation, even though I'm 52 years old and have lived in the Northeast my entire life. At that exact location on Route 35, I did not have a cell signal, so my 911 calls did not go through for nearly 10 minutes. Even after I connected to the 911 operator, the connection was so bad and garbled, we couldn't hear each other, adding more stress to an already stressful situation. The buck was mangled and bloody and literally bucking all over the car, middle of the road, and eventually, miraculously, somehow made it to the side of the road, twitching and panicked. Witnessing that was a harrowing experience for me as an animal lover, as I could see the panic and fear in its eyes as it was dying. So such a lovely letter you gave me to read, Tony.
So I gave it to you.
Yeah, no, I know why you gave it to me. It wasn't that part, but anyway, you were calm and consoling and immediately made me feel at ease as much as possible in the situation. I was too scared to get out of the car to check the damage. You were kind and patient with me and explained everything that was going to happen. You offered to follow me to the town park at your suggestion to make sure my car was able to be driven home safely. At the park, we spoke again about what I should do immediately upon returning home and assured me that I did not need a police report for my insurance claim. Fast forward to today, 2 days later, the insurance adjuster just left. I have an auto body shop at the ready, and I feel so grateful that I am now on the way to getting my car repaired and moving on with life. I will always remember the way you helped me, not just with the tactical next steps of what to do in that type of accident situation, but your emotional support is what really sitting with me now. Your kind demeanor and friendly, reassuring attitude will never be forgotten. Kind regards, Kristen Kelly from South Salem.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fratarola. See something here. Okay. All right, so next we have the consent agenda, and which not noted in the agenda, but that would be the approval of the meeting minutes for the November 10th meeting. So motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 10th.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have new business. We have a presentation of the new police department. These are concept plans, and I'm going to invite Eric Kaiser from KG&D to do the presentation. And let me just get it up on the screen first so everyone can see it. Okay. Okay, Eric, so I'll let you take it away, but maybe I can provide a little bit of feedback on this in light of the questions that came up. So the police station, as you'll see in the first slide here, which I'm going to share over Zoom, so let me do that, is in the location of the existing state police barracks. So that is the location. The challenges we had in the beginning was where to locate the septic system. And we've addressed that, and this is why we can now build at this location.
To click right.
Yeah. Let me just share the screen here. Those at home. Okay, so let me. Oops. Okay, there you go.
You want to take us?
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
Hi. Eric Kyer, KGD Architects, here representing you all, the town of Lewisboro, as well as the Lewisboro Police Department this evening. And we have a short presentation associated with a potential location and master planning for the new or proposed police station. So this image right here, you can see it's taken from Spring Street, just north of Route 35, and that's the existing New York State Police House. And to the right is the commuter lot. We can have the next slide, please.
Can you just give us like a 30-second big picture of what you were tasked to do, and so as we go through the slides and everything, or was gonna hit on that?
Sure.
Okay.
So we were retained about 4 months ago to first consider multiple locations, but ultimately we looked at this one location and we were asked to put together a proposal for the police department with the program that was provided to us, and we'll go through that. There was a comment earlier about septic, so there's a couple different potential septic locations. There's one primary location which we think will work. It would take a little bit of piping out to it, but it's definitely a good possibility, and it's a good location for the police department. If you know that the existing police department long-term can't stay in its current residence, so it's time to look for a new place.
Thank you.
Sure. So in terms of the project, understanding the site,
This is gonna be a one-story facility with a walkout basement and a two-car plus Sally Port garage. So that gives the officers an opportunity to drive in if there's a suspect, drive directly into a garage bay, into a secure place. The aesthetic of the building, we were asked to make sure that it was kept in character of the community. In terms of other site features, that there needs to be a secured lot for the officers' private as well as town-owned vehicles. Hopefully, some of those parking spaces could be canopied with a solar canopy, similar to what, if you've been to the town of Bedford, their police station has about 10 vehicle carports that are covered by solar panels. There will also be a public parking. Currently, there's the commuter lot just to the north, on the north side of this property, that's planning to remain and be utilized for any visitors that are coming to the police station. And this project would require a new septic field and public water supply. And there's also an outdoor terrace feature, which could be used for both training and just daily use. Next. The building itself, we're directed that this building should accommodate amenities for 20 to 24 officers. That there should be multiple layers of building security, and you'll see that in terms of the plans as to the different layers of security for the building. That there will be locker rooms for the officers, as well as some minor amount of overnight sleeping accommodations for officers. There's a multi-purpose room that will be utilized for the Office of Emergency Management, as well as daily use by the officers as a training room and just general use.
I wonder if it's good, not everybody knows the 20 to 24 officers. It's not like we have 20-24 on all times. There's rotating shifts and part-timers and everything, just in case some folks may not understand that.
That's right. That's the total force.
Yeah.
That's not the on-duty force. Absolutely.
Because each officer needs their own space to keep stuff, right?
That's right. So when you say 20 to 24, there's obviously offices for the different officers, and then there's a locker room. So every officer has their own locker space. There's an evidence room, there's police equipment, there's general building storage. And there's also interview rooms, a juvenile room, as well as suspect holding room. There is no planned overnight detention cells. So this is for coming in, processing, but no overnight stay. And we were directed to design this building in such a way, or the conceptual planning of this building in such a way that it could either be stick built, which is sort of standard construction, ground up, or designed offsite in a modular way and brought onto campus so that we could look at it from a pricing point of view in multiple different ways. So this is site aerial. The bottom left corner is Route 35 from west to east, and as it intersects Spring Street, you can see that in the white line, that's the town of Lewisboro's Department of Public Works property. And then at the bottom, in what looks kind of like a red boot with some green, that's where we're proposing for the police department site. The current New York State Police Station is there in a red box, and just to the right or just to the north is where the current commuter lot is. We talked briefly about a septic field location. So at the very top of the page, it's piped mostly downhill, but there would be a lift at one point. That's an opportunity or option area for a septic location.
And if I could just add to that, so we did some preliminary testing of that location to see if it would permit us to put a septic field there. And the initial indication is that the soils are good for septic. And we actually have the health department coming by next week to do their own testing. And so it does have to pass the health department's test before we can move to the next step.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
That's currently our DPW property. What is in that corner currently? What is it used for?
It's not used by the Department of Public Works. It's actually used by the neighbor. It's a field for animals.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a conceptual site plan. The bottom of the page is Spring Street. At the left side of the page is the driveway that, sorry.
Sensitive mouse, sorry about that.
Left side of the page, from the bottom of the page to the top is that driveway, which leads to the Department of Public Works lot. In blue, which is sort of a flattened H shape, is where the new proposed police station is. And above that would be where there's a terrace directly above, and above that in blue as well is that series of potential parking spaces for police officers, which could be canopy and covered and have photovoltaic solar panels on them. And that would be a secured lot for the police officer vehicles. And then to the right of the police station, that is the existing commuter lot. It would be planned to be somewhat improved and have a drop off at the main level for anybody that's coming to the police station proper. That property actually falls away a little bit between where the police station is and above, that going towards the Department of Public Works or the police officer's lot. And you'll see in one of the renderings that are coming up how that lower level is directly accessible and why we located the building where we did. So the next 4 slides are conceptual renderings. They're really first passes. It's just to show generally what this police station could look like. But this isn't full design, so don't think that this is the final product. This is really just a conceptual image to show generally kind of the direction of what the police station would go. So this is looking from the Spring Street location at the front door with the commuter lot on the right side.
And you can see the arrow here, it's from this perspective.
That's right. There's a plan in the bottom right corner that shows where that arrow is pointing to. Go to the next slide. Now we're over on the cemetery side, same commuter lot. This is the driveway as you come to the front entrance door. You can see that there's a fence on the right there, and there would be a terrace beyond there. Go to the next slide. This is from Spring Street. If you've just entered Spring Street from 35, you've just driven past where the Department of Public Works driveway is. And if we went back to the very first photograph where you saw the New York State Police Station, you don't have to go back there. This is basically the same angle looking at that building. And so here's the shot that shows that this site, as you drive down the Department of Public Works driveway, the site falls away and gives us an opportunity to have a direct access garage at that lower level entrance for officers.
Question is, I guess accredited law enforcement agency, are there certain requirements that you have to meet referable to the construction? Or are there no uniform standards with that? I don't know.
There's no real, I mean, there's obviously building code that we have to follow, but there's no uniform standards for a police station per se. And it really, it gets into the security of the facility. And that would be a discussion we probably wouldn't want in a public forum, but we would, what we are going to talk about in this forum is so the different layers of security inside the building, not necessarily the building perimeter. Hard to read, but this basically is for any project we work on, we put together a program, and this is the program of all the individual spaces in a building. And so in here, if you can read where the different blue lines, it'll say different zones. So zone 1 is the entry zone. So as somebody from the public that comes to the police station, the first thing they'll do is they'll walk into the building by being buzzed into this vestibule, and they'll be able to state the reason why they're there. And that's as far as they'll be able to go. That's zone 1. You go, if you're allowed to go past that into zone 2, that's where the Office of Emergency Management is. So when there's a town emergency, everybody would meet in that room. It's a fairly large 600 square foot plus room for a fairly large group of town officials to get together to discuss whatever issue is out there. It's also where the communications office, the communications department is the first line of defense or whatever you want to call it. So when somebody comes and has an issue, that's the person that they're going to talk to, and as well as some open office space. Once we get into zone 3, that's really sort of just for the police officers proper. Because all the officers, the offices for them, as well as the locker room space, changing and gear storage and armory. Zone 4 is for the arrest processing. That's most likely for officers who are coming into the Sally Port. They're pulling in with a suspect. They're coming up the set of stairs, and there's a specific room there that they go into and they get processed for whatever they're getting processed for. And then there's also basement space. That the overall square footage of the main level is about 4,000 square feet. So it's if you think about it from residential terms, it's a pretty good sized house, 4,000 square feet. It also has an entire lower level, which includes the Sally Port. It includes the evidence room, a small workout space, as well as the bunk room and utility and mechanical space. So when you include, and the majority of that lower level is unfinished space, but there is some finished space. So, but if you include all of that combined, you're at almost 8,000 square feet of total building space. Go to the next slide, please. Now I'm going to quickly walk you through the floor plans. We can go to the slides. Okay. And so the different areas in pink are the areas that we're going to sort of walk you through area by area. So as you get dropped off, walk into the front door of the police station. That one little vestibule there is zone 1. And so that's the public entrance, and directly adjacent to that is the communications office. If you go to the next slide. Now we have the communications office. We have the open office for police officers. There is a toilet there, as well as the emergency management training room. And it also has some kitchenette facilities there. When you get down to zone 3, that's where all the different private offices for the police chief, the lieutenants, the supervisor, and the detectives' offices. It also is where we have the interview room, as well as a juvenile interview or holding room. And then on the far left side is where we have one large locker room, as well as a smaller locker room, and 2 full bathrooms, as well as the gear and armory room. And then finally, at the last space, zone 4 on this level is the arrest processing. It's directly adjacent to a stairwell that goes down to the garage down below. In all these cases, each one of those doors that is between the different zones is access controlled. Going down to the lower level, this is the Sally Port. Zone 5.
What is Sally Port? Everybody keeps using the term bar.
It's a garage. It's a glorified garage. It's a controlled space that officers will bring their car in. The garage door will close. Officer will open the door, pull out the suspect, and bring them into the room to be processed.
Was an Officer Sally from the Revolutionary War?
That's a great question. Somebody should look that, Google it while we're in here. And you come to the mic and enlighten all of us. I think we might be looking.
Moving right along.
And then finally, zone 6 is where there's a small bunk room for 2 officers if they need to spend the night there. There's also a quartermaster room, which is for uniforms for multiple seasons. Your evidence room, as well as a small workout space. And then we're going to show the last one, but that's the far right side or the north end of the buildings for storage and mechanical space. So here you see an image of the existing building and what the proposed building could be. At this point, turn it over. Questions?
Any questions
Any
from the
questions?
board? Sure.
I'm looking at the layout, and I think it's great. I mean, right now we don't necessarily have a need for a bunk room. I don't, our offices right now, although the police department is continuing to expand and grow in different ways. My concern is that maybe we need to anticipate the fact that we may have female officers join the force in the future. And in looking at this, and only because I had some experience with this in my day job, that there needed to be some separate facility where the female officers can change and or shower or whatever that is separate and apart from the male officers, that's all.
Supervisor, can you go back 3 slides?
Mhm.
Cool. One more. So directly above arrest processing, it says locker.
Yep.
So that's a smaller locker room space with 4 lockers and a private bathroom. That's set up so that at any point in the future, if there is female officers, that they would have a separate changing space.
Beautiful. Thank you.
In the meantime, if there aren't any females, they can choose who's gonna utilize that space.
Flex, it could be a flex space.
That's right.
So how many square feet total? Looks like maybe 10,000 or something, if I added up those numbers.
It's 4,000 on the main level, and then the lower basement there is another 4,000 square feet. Of that fitted out is about 1,000 of the 1,000 to 1,400 at the lower level that's fitted out. The rest is unfinished space. So if you're talking about finished space, something in the range of 5,000.
Just trying to get a sense of what this thing would cost. What's construction costs these days? Like 600?
So
I don't know.
you're in the right range. Right now, what we would like to do and what we recommend to the town is actually to go and talk to one of the companies like Westchester Modular. Show them a set of plans like this and ask them to bid it out. You can't really see it on this plan, but this would actually be designed as 6 different boxes that would be brought on site. So the white box on the right where it says emergency management and training, that's 2 boxes, 14 feet by, I think it's 38 feet. Same thing on the locker room side, that's 2 boxes. When I say boxes, these are coming in on tractor trailer trucks.
Yeah.
You'd have 6 different tractor trailer trucks that would bring this, drop this onto existing foundation so that been put in place. And so we think that that's going to be less expensive. Now, because this is a public building, this would be a prevailing wage, depending on how we built it. And so prevailing wage obviously is more expensive than if you're building a house here in town.
So assuming it's prevailing wage for the modular aspect, you're talking about, what's your rough estimate?
So I'll just say that there's another municipality that's one of your neighbors here that we designed a similar facility that was for about 3,000 square feet with some basement space and a little bit less site work. It was about a $5 million project. That's a prevailing wage project as opposed to a modular project, which we would hope would be a little bit less.
And the neighboring was stick built? The neighboring one you're talking about?
It was proposed as stick built. It has not been built.
Okay. So that's the difference between modular and stick built. Stick built is what, generally 20% more, or you give a ratio about that?
It really depends on the type of project, because we do a lot of schoolwork right here in town too. We've been looking at modular for school classroom construction, and what we're finding, and those aren't sort of a Westchester modular variety. Most of them come from Pennsylvania and get trucked up here. We're finding that it saves a lot of construction time on site, but it doesn't save a whole lot of money. So that's why we're really interested to talk to a couple of these companies to find out what they would be able to price this out at. Because if we were pricing this out as if this was a school, we're talking about $600 a square foot, it's that plus, because you have contingency and escalation, general condition.
Another number.
Unfortunately, architects get paid too, so there's a bunch of other costs that add up.
The other number you cited comes to like 1,500 square foot or something. Did you say 5 million for 3,000 square feet?
Well, there's also basement site work and then
So depends
all,
on-
that's the total built out project.
Outfitting.
That's
What's in-
again, all your
Specialty
soft
stuff.
costs, contingencies, escalation, yes.
We're approaching like $9 or $10 million with all with the excavation, septic.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to quote a price
No, no.
tonight. I think that it would behoove all of us to go talk to.
We're not holding your hand to a Bible, we get the idea, we're just pie in the sky kind of big thinking.
But also realistic at the same time.
Realistic,
We
yeah.
have to go in with our eyes open to
Yes, we
do,
And the
to do it right
taxpayers
the
have to
first
know.
time.
Taxpayers have to know too, because the school district is also looking now to bond and pay for the renovations on Lewisboro Elementary School in a similar time frame to us, so they're gonna be getting it not only in see it in their pocketbook from taxes from the school, but from the town as well. And, you know, we're put in this position because we don't have a home at the school anymore, so.
And it's time.
It is
It's
time, way
you know,
overdue.
Yeah.
In
So,
order of magnitude, once you bond, it's 30 years or whatever, it's gonna be like $100 a household a year, which.
Didn't you want to stop?
1% of the, no, but I
If you
mean.
add up all the per households that you've said the past 4 years, I can't even imagine how much that is per household for every job.
I just think it's good to translate it into those terms, like people hear the $10 million numbers, like they wanna just melt, but you know, that's kind of what it comes down to as an impact to an individual tax.
and we can have our financial advisor put some scenarios together like they did a few months ago. You know, for the bonding and how much it's the associated debt service to the taxpayer.
Is this the last slide of your presentation?
Yes, it
Yes,
is.
he's done, yeah.
Just wanted to make sure we didn't leave any.
In terms of the planning process, it's been terrific working with everybody in town. So, of course, the police department's been an amazing partner in this as well.
I'm really excited to see the Office of Emergency Management room in there for our emergency response team. So that's very,
And I just want to say that Eric has also helped with the layout. Someone, I think it was Barbara, asked about the court. So you helped us with the layout for the prospective court space, which is on the first floor of the new building that we acquired. So
It seems like we're getting pretty close with the plan.
yes, we are.
Could you clarify one thing?
Actually,
The state police building, what happens to that?
so there's no questions from the audience at this point. You have to wait till public comment. But this will replace the state police. Initially, when we were looking at the site, we talked about using and leveraging the state police and maybe adding to it. Or using that building, you know, when push comes to shove, but we decided it's not a good building to use. So this will replace it.
My understanding that the open space is available down the road, we want to create an opportunity for the state police to have access to part of it.
You're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, that's something we would have to work out.
architect, not a diplomat.
No, I mean, no,
I know that's
it's just open space is what I'm
The
getting at.
state police is planning to move out of the building, so.
Yeah, and like I said, the next major milestone is Department of Health doing their work next week for the septic. And we'll see how that pans out. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be okay.
We said the preliminary, who did the preliminary stuff you mentioned?
Kelly Sessions, KSCJ, they did that with the help of our Joel and his team. They brought the excavator over there and drilled or dug the holes, the test holes. And the initial test by KSCJ indicated that it's the soils are good for absorption. Yeah. All right, any other questions from the board for Eric? No?
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. You're more than welcome to stay if you want, but probably won't. All right, so next we have a presentation with the Antenna Advisory Board and Homeland Towers regarding the next cell towers. So I think maybe we'll start with our antenna advisory board.
You want to stop sharing?
Yeah, let me stop sharing this. Sorry about that. Yes, I'll close this file. Let's see here. I just want to put up the right file. Joseph and Rob, should I put up the file that you guys are going to be reviewing?
Sure, yeah.
We'll run through it. Let me.
Yeah, I'm gonna make some opening remarks and then I'll hand it to Rob to walk through that.
Share the screen. Okay. Okay.
All right, we're ready.
Good.
So good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm Joseph Noy. I'm the chair of the Antenna Advisory Board. And I'm here with fellow AAB member Rob Cummings, who is going to walk you through the briefing document. But I wanted to make some opening remarks first to kind of reiterate the AAB's recommendation that the town advance the Salt Dome site as the location for the South Salem cell tower.
Is there any reason why we're talking at this point in time? Do we have any time issues that we're addressing? I'm just wondering why we're bringing this up at this particular point in time. Is there anything we have to address in a certain time period?
Well, we have some urgency to getting cell coverage in the town of Lewisboro. I think that's the driving force for this.
I would offer that there's another reason for it too, because if you're considering the salt, also talking about moving the highway over there, and it needs to be considered in a whole, which make sure it all works together too. So
it's a popular spot.
Yeah, and if I can add also, we had. So in 2018, which was mentioned or public comment, that's when we were discussing the tower that went into Plus River. That's when the board voted to put that tower. It was 2018. Subsequent to that, we had discussions about the Salt Dome Tower to fill gaps that we have in the area. We decided in 2021 to hold off on further discussing the Salt Dome Tower because we had this wireless master plan that was paid for by Westchester County. So we decided let's hold off until that master plan is completed. In parallel to that, Verizon, who would be the anchor tenant here, we're looking at other options for improving infrastructure and existing towers, as well as the church steeple over here at South Salem Presbyterian Church. So that all was going on in parallel. And then subsequent to that, we had a decision was made by Verizon on the South Salem Presbyterian Church, and then we had the master plan completed as well about a year or so ago, year and a half, maybe.
June 2023.
There you go, 2 years ago. Okay. Yeah, so that brings us to here. And that's why we're discussing it.
Which decision by Verizon you mentioned?
To Verizon requested, and in this document, there's a letter from Verizon saying that they want to go back to the Salt Dome location.
Yeah, perhaps I'll get through my opening remarks and then we'll get into the document and I'll take some questions.
But good job in putting it.
Since joining the AAB in August of 2020, my top priority and really the AAB's top priority has been to ensure that Lewisboro finally receives the reliable wireless coverage that has lacked for many decades. And this is reflected in our meeting minutes across 5 years. And over that time, we've worked deliberately to stay on offense. And this is a phrase I've used often. So we don't lose the the carrier funding and engagement necessary to resolve this longstanding infrastructure deficit. South Salem has been the priority from the beginning. Both Verizon and AT&T have been unequivocal that South Salem is their next acquired macro site, and no additional towers will move forward in Lewisboro until this gap is closed. And this position has been consistent at least since 2020. Meanwhile, poor wireless connectivity has been an issue in South Salem and across Lewisboro. It undermines residents' ability to work, learn, and access emergency services. During storms and power outages, households in weak signal areas lose all means of communication. And similarly, first responders can also lose critical communications when the service goes down. So it's not merely an inconvenience, but a critical public safety issue. And the Cityscape wireless study that Supervisor Kukal has mentioned confirms what residents already know, and we've heard it already in the public comments tonight, that coverage in Lewisboro is inadequate or non-existent in several neighborhoods. Only about a quarter of residents say their service is acceptable, and nearly 100% say reliable cell service is essential. So this underscores the urgency of action in my mind. And over the past 5 years, the AAB has conducted a comprehensive evaluation of every plausible site in South Salem. And the AAB briefing document that Rob will take you through identifies 4 primary sites that received in-depth review by carriers, consultants, including Homeland Tower. Beyond these 4, the AAB also investigated several additional options raised by residents and stakeholders. And after 5 years of rigorous work, engineering analysis, carrier consultation, site walks, and this comprehensive cityscape study with modeling reviews, et cetera, repeated community outreach, the facts all lead to one conclusion: that the Salt Dome is the only site available that meets the technical, geographic, and operational requirements to close South Salem's wireless coverage gap. This gap will remain unresolved, and additional tower developments in all parts of the town will remain blocked until this site moves forward.
Why is that?
Because they've said that this is their priority and they're not going to consider other coverage gaps until they fill this one. So this is sort of the linchpin to getting the rest of the coverage gaps in Lewisboro filled.
And that happened with the crossover tower. Until that tower went up, the other 2 carriers that were not on the town park tower, they wouldn't put their infrastructure up. That was AT&T and T-Mobile, because they wanted continuity on Route 35, and without that crossover tower, they wouldn't have the continuity of service.
Yes. So 5 years later, we're back where we started, proposing the Salt Dome as the best choice available. So in my mind, we either move forward or spend more time and come back around to this same conclusion. And with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Rob to walk you through the briefing document, which hopefully you had a chance to review. Rob?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, board. I'm not going to take you through in detail the document, but it's all in there. The reason why we put the document together is so that everyone would have the same information, because we kept getting the same questions. Why didn't you consider this site? Why didn't you consider this site? This covers all the sites that we considered. So I'm just going to briefly go through the first site was in the recycling center behind just over to the right here on this property. It was proposed along with site 2, which is the Salt Dome site. That was sometime in 2020. I think it was 2018, but a revised proposal was done in spring of 2020. And Verizon withdrew the support for the site at the recycling center because of community opposition. There was a meeting and have access to all those notes and all those letters. So they fell back to the second option. We as the AAB met multiple times on that and discussed it. In 2020, another site was proposed next to the South Salem Animal Hospital, which is also town-owned. It was eventually rejected because it was for a couple of reasons. The wetland site, it's a lower elevation, and it's also too close to the existing Leon Levy Tower. In your document, you can see where all the sites are located. And then the site number 4, which is the Presbyterian Church steeple, and there's a diagram of the steeple in your briefing document. It's also in the agenda packet online. Too many technical limitations for the equipment to go in. It was also not high enough to propagate the signal. So that's the overview. All the details in there in the briefing document. I've linked to all of the original documents that the screenshots and all the figures came from. If you want to dig deeper in there, there's hundreds of pages of documents if you want to go in there. But we're really talking about a base level of coverage. Our area is missing. We're not missing. You know, we have a gap of the basic macro cell service. We just don't have the coverage in these areas. It's masked by the fact that we all have Wi-Fi in our house, and when we take out our cell phone, it attaches to the Wi-Fi, and a cell phone call is actually made through your Wi-Fi network, which is a wired network. That's Cablevision or Fios, depending on the part of town you're in. But when the power goes out, everyone's all of a sudden on the cell phone networks, and they get overloaded. They're inadequate, and it's really necessary to build that stuff up. So in the case of a power emergency, a medical emergency, that's when you need the service the most. That's when you need the emergency services to work. And they frankly haven't. We've all experienced it. This is not a nice thing to have. This is a must thing to have. And this is critical infrastructure, and it should be viewed as critical infrastructure. And it's also the Salt Dome site is being proposed for the police station, also very critical infrastructure. They would get the #1 spot, topmost spot on that cell tower for emergency services. So for the fire, emergency services, police, and ambulance, they would have much better coverage for their communication network, for the emergency communication network. 20 years ago, a little bit of history. 20 years ago, we lost out on fiber to the home for Fios in this part of Lewisboro. So we all have been stuck with Cablevision for the last 20 years because they stopped their build out. And they never resumed it. You know, they stopped it for various reasons, and then they said, we're gonna do this, that, we're gonna do all these things, which they never ended up doing. And the bottom line is we still have Cablevision. I still have a copper wire to my house. That's my broadband service. And it's you know, sadly, it's inadequate. So I just don't want that to happen again, because Verizon has many towns that they are building in and many towns that they're funding antennas in. And if we may miss the opportunity, they may decide to move their investment elsewhere. I don't know any inside information on that, but that's why this is critical. It's may not feel like it's timely, but it's incredibly urgent. So the last thing I wanted to do is tell a little bit of a personal story. It was just over 2 years ago. I was woken up by chest pains, and 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, November 19th, 2023. And I woke up, and my wife said, "What's going on?" She said, "I think I'm having a heart attack." So she called 911. It was the right thing to do. LVAC came immediately, very good response. And I'm hooked up, and they determined pretty quickly I needed to go to the hospital. One of the members who responded is actually one of the AAB members, Brian Porco. He's a member of LVAC and also Vista Fire Department. He's an EMS responder. And I'm getting into the ambulance. You know, they're wheeling me into the ambulance, and they said, "Oh, we're going to hook it up to the equipment in the ambulance, and they're going to connect to the hospital directly via cell service," which didn't exist at my house. All right. And I said, well, I have Wi-Fi. And Brian says, medical equipment, you can't type the Wi-Fi password into a medical equipment. It's security, there's many issues with that. So you can't rely on those Wi-Fi bridges that we use with our cell phone every day with critical medical equipment. You can't, your ambulance can't communicate with hospitals. Now, they were talking to them on the phone, but it would have been better if the communication had been directly from the machine. So, I was lucky. I got good response. I got to the hospital within 2 hours. I was on the operating table and getting a stent put in, and been good ever since. But there are other people who are possibly not so lucky. So whether it's in a park, it's in your home, you're in a car and you run into a deer like the woman whose letter you read. They couldn't get 911 service. I mean, we're an hour north of New York City. How do we not have self-service? So this is urgent. And I would recommend reading the document, all the backing material, or just go through it. It's 16 pages long, has a lot of information in it. And if you want to delve deeper, all the information is there. So if I want to yield my time, I guess. And thank you for listening. And
Well, just a couple of questions from your stuff.
Sure.
Did you get any input from the highway department as far as utilizing this property?
Did I get any input?
Or the AAB, I'm sorry.
That's really the subject of Ray's presentation.
Yeah. But just even, when this first came up, there were visits to that location by our prior highway superintendent.
Absolutely.
So he was fully aware that that was a proposed location.
Yeah.
So I heard everything said. There's no doubt how important quality, cell phone coverage is in 2025. So, but it looks like your board had a 3-2 vote on this.
I'm sorry.
Looks like your board had a 3-2 vote.
So that's a good question. One of the members is actually involved with the Presbyterian Church, so he abstained. He did not vote. And the third member, Lynn, she wanted this. This was a September vote. She wanted this report to go to the board before she voted to recommend it. And she said she would recommend this location after you had time to consider that. And she wasn't able to come to our last meeting. So we had a second meeting after that, and we didn't take a revote, but it would have been a 4-1 vote with one abstention based on a conflict of interest. So,
and this goes to the last question. This goes back to the prior presentation by the county's retained contractor. Is there anything that you are seeing, that AAB is seeing, that if this was done, here would be the quantifiable increase in cell phone coverage referable to houses or what have you? In other words, demonstrating I'm looking at it from a cost benefit analysis and have been for a period of years.
Right.
We know the part as far as the visual component of it. But separate apart from that, if it was being done there, what is the quantifiable increase in cell phone coverage to South Salem community or wherever else it's going to come to pass?
I think it's in the document. There's a couple of different locations of the cell towers and the propagation. There's 3 towers. There's one tower at Lewisboro Town Park. There's a tower at Leon Levy, and those are the primary cell signals we get from this point. There's another tower in Ridgefield that only has T-Mobile antennas, and it's also in the map. But if you draw that triangle, the center of the triangle is this area, and this is also one of the densest areas as far as housing. It's 1/4 acre zoning, 1/2 acre zoning, 2 acre zoning in this area. So there's a lot of houses. So when I think Gray has done presentations and Cityscape, when they did their study, they did an analysis of, and it's also linked in the document, that how much coverage on a density basis. So exactly what you're talking about. What's your bang for the buck? Like if we put an antenna here, it's going to get a great signal, but it's all farmland. Or if we put an antenna here, it may be not ideal, but it's going to have a greater effect. Like for example, the antenna in Cross River at the ambulance corps, people said, oh, it's in a low part of town. But if you look, there's a huge condo complex right there, and it's very close to Michelle Estates, and it's close to the school. So where it happens to be, it's maybe not ideal from an elevation standpoint, but it's ideal from where the population is, and they're very close to that site.
Well, that's exactly what I'm looking at. In other words, saying in cross reference, the result of doing this.
Yeah.
500 homes have substantially increased cell phone coverage that they didn't have before.
Exactly.
But I haven't
So
heard that as far as what's being contemplated here. that I-
Yeah, so every house in this, so from Salt Dome, the main area is you have the lakes on this side, a lake on this side, you have Mead Street and post office and the school, or the elementary school, the old elementary school, and then down 124 into Sabbath Day Hill, those areas. Those would be the areas that would see increased better signals where you're actually getting a cell signal instead of driving into your garage and suddenly getting service because you're attached to your Wi-Fi. So they did, it's in the documents, it's in the cityscape document where they did the study on density per propagation. And then also, at Homeland Towers, I don't want to steal any thunder from Ray, but that's one of the main things they look at is what is the bang for the buck? How many people are going to be affected by this?
Could you remind me what conclusions, I don't recall if the owners of Farview Farm were actually reached out to and had a conversation with. I remember that location came up during the course of several conversations here. And was that ever?
They are not interested.
All right, so the answer is yes, someone reached out to them, to the owners?
Yes, multiple times over a decade or more. And they're probably listening right now, so they'll probably have comments because they've been to every single one of our AAB meetings virtually. So at least not the owners, but the caretakers.
Yes, I'm aware of the caretakers. I just didn't know if there was communication with the actual owners themselves or just the caretaker, and if, for instance, that was town property that we had access to, whether that would be a better
That would be
location.
better. It's higher. And that would be if we could put it on top of the water tower there and make it a little higher. That I'm sure that I don't know.
Yeah, the point of clarification, our recommendation is based on what is available.
Right.
Yeah.
Understood, just,
Yeah, and
I
Randy.
get questions too, so I don't respond properly.
Yeah, we get the same questions. You probably get the same questions that we do, and the document is designed so that we.
Meeting, I asked if there was public, if there are private property owners who want to volunteer to put a cell tower on property in this vicinity where it's needed.
Yeah. And honestly, if it was a private property owner who was volunteering we would already have a cell tower, because the reason why we don't have a cell tower now is because it's town property and the town is as the owner of the property is not required to rent it to space there. But if it was your property, if you had property there, and that was your property, we would have had a 90-day shot clock started and it would have been much more expedited. It wouldn't have taken 5 years to do it. So the reason why it's taken the 5 years is because we're considering town-owned property. So.
And the only non-town property owner that came forward is the South Salem Presbyterian Church.
Who's this gentleman, Ryan Mayback, that wrote a letter to you guys in September from
Verizon
Network Real Estate of Verizon?
That's the.
That's the thing that I want to do the steeple.
That's a letter confirming that they.
That letter.
That's the letter saying.
That letter came to me from Verizon.
Right, but it's from a real estate person.
It's
Verizon.
At Verizon.
Yeah, Verizon Real Estate. So they're basically saying we're not interested in renting that property because that's the real estate person who does.
So should we hear
The other
from Ray?
concern I had, just looking at, if you see actually that's the new map, that's the new one, okay. So the septic field for the police station is actually doesn't overlap. I think it's that.
It's here.
Yeah, it's in that area. So I think they're compatible.
No,
Which
actually,
was the original.
It's actually, isn't it the north, the new one?
No.
Isn't it?
This is where the septic is being considered is up here.
Okay.
And this was the original proposed location for the cell tower when we first started discussing the Salt Dome.
Yeah.
It was up here in this area. And then we moved it back there to tuck it away behind the Salt Dome. So with that, do we want to have Ray?
Thank you.
Good evening, Ray Brigatti at Home and Towers. Thank you, Joe and Rob, for the opening presentation. I just want to thank supervisor members of the board for the opportunity to be here this evening. By way of introduction, I'm Ray Brigatti. I'm the regional manager for Home and Towers. Home and Towers is a tower developer out of Danbury, Connecticut. We simply build the infrastructure for the carriers of the like of Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, public safety, fire, police, emergency services. I've been in this business 26 years. I remember coming to Lewisboro back in the early 2000s and looking at your map up there, everyone referred to your town as the stealth bomber, the way your town is laid out. Back in the early 2000s, there was very poor carpet share. Since then, Homan has been successful in developing 3 towers. We developed a tower at the Vista Fire Department. We developed a tower off of 138 over by Harriet Lane. And the last tower we did was the Cross River site, the LVAC. This site, South Salem, has always been of interest to the carriers. And we work very close with the carriers, hand in hand. They're our tenants, our customers. We talk to them weekly. It's a unique area in the sense that you've got 35 with a bend on it. You've got the Leon Levy Tower, about 1.75 miles to the southwest. You've got the town park about 1.5 miles, that tower to the west. This site falls in the middle. When the engineers, be it Verizon engineers or radio frequency, the RF engineers, design their networks, they design them with topography, the way the roads lay out, terrain, where their existing cell sites are located. They just don't throw a dart on the map. That's why we've been continuously coming to the town over the years. I think we started conversations with Supervisor Parsons in 2016. And at that point, the town's focus was solving the coverage gap at LVAC in the Cross River section of town, which you folks have. That's a 170-foot tower. I believe all 3 carriers are on that tower. So we find ourselves here, 2025. I hear stories, this woman that wrote the letter, Kristen Kelly, about the deer. I hear stories like that all the time. Can't get a 911 signal out. It's no longer convenience, as the AAB said. This is critical infrastructure, just like water, sewage, electric, gas. And I'm not here to preach as far as how critical it is, but we hear these stories, and I just say, thank God it was a buck and not a person that got hit, where 10 minutes was wasted because a 911 call didn't get through. So we're in the business of saving lives. We understand these towers have to be above the tree lines. That's the bottom line. It works on line of sight technology. So the Salt Dome is the ideal location. We have vetted a number of private parcels and town parcels over the years. Last time I was here, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, between the AAB and appearing before the town board. And the message was, can you try to work with the South Salem Presbyterian Church with that steeple? The existing steeple is roughly 80 feet tall to the very top of the spire. We had our engineer go out and we worked with Sam Dodge with the church and to gather all the plans, because there was a fire on that church and it was rebuilt at a lower height. We worked with all the existing plans they had, and we engineered a steeple rebuild on that tower, on that church, going up to roughly 103 feet to the top of the spire, with stealth antennas located inside that steeple. You can't put an antenna at 103 feet because there's a point involved. So the highest antenna height structurally to tie into that cinder block building and the roof and the wood was getting antenna at 90 feet. It's just not tall enough for Verizon. They rejected it. And I think that's what the letter with Mr. Rayback, Ryan, wrote to the town.
I've asked this in prior presentations. So in 2025, like, thing that seems a little strange to me, that from a technological standpoint, as a layperson who doesn't understand it at all, but it seems like technologically we're still in large monopoles above the tree line. Is that where the technology still is after all these decades of having cell phones?
So the carriers are getting their networks closer to ground level, because what's coming down the road is driverless cars. And when you have driverless cars, driverless vehicles, you have to have the signal closer to the roads to propagate down so that technology can be used. This is a height-driven technology to some extent. The LVAC location is interesting in the sense that it's in a bowl, but the signal propagates out in the bowl. So you have the condos across the street, the school and the other residents. So height was not king over there. In this particular area, it's very challenging because of the terrain, because of the way everything is laid out. So the Verizon is not going to build a site in a bowl here. They need to be higher up. The elevation the church site and at the Salt Dome are basically apples to apples. But only being able to get an antenna at 90 feet versus 127 feet, you're looking at a roughly, almost a 30, 40-foot difference, obviously. So it did not work for Verizon. Does that answer your question?
No, I'm just talking about the technology that we're basically in the same place. That you have to build a tall pole above the tree line in order to do what you need technologically, and seemingly it hasn't progressed in the last couple of days.
Haven't changed.
It's a science. You can't bend the rules of physics, so they have to operate pretty much on a line of sight technology. This particular location at the Salt Dome, it's at the bend on 35. It sees toward the town park as a handoff site where Verizon is currently located, and it sees to Leon Levy to the other tower that is another handoff site.
So picking up on a question for Rob, and like from an economic feasibility, so presume Verizon has done some kind of calculation that it's economically viable to do this, and is there any information you can convey as far as, okay, by putting what we're contemplating here, this is going to be the impact as far as improvement of cell service to X number of homeowners or X number, just to quantify it?
Yeah, I don't have the exact count of homes. Obviously, in the AAB's presentation, they provide propagation maps. And in addition to what we've provided to the town over the years from Verizon Direct, I think Cityscape also provided propagation maps. So it shows the footprint of what's existing and what's proposed. And you're able to see on a map as far as what that footprint is. And I'm happy to get from Verizon the number, they call it POPs or households that would get coverage from the site at the Salt Dome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important because the cost benefit analysis there. And I just think, and I've talked about it in the past, it would be a more compelling argument that if we're doing this, here's the benefit we're going to get from the community for all the reasons that cell phone coverage is here.
Yeah.
That would include all the people who drive up from Vista or happen to be in the neighborhood, or the people from Golden's Bridge. I mean, we all drive through the town all the time. And honestly, the 5G that all the commercials talk about is just PR. It doesn't exist. It may pop up as 5G on your phone,
Stand up
That
in my office
degradate
and
the
talk to
signal,
myself.
obviously, these are wood walls with latch. If you've got
Yeah, yeah.
concrete or stone, it's even worse if you're in the basement.
Right.
Yeah, the signal's
Just to
segregated.
clarify on that, when you say that the location wouldn't interfere with highway operations, we're talking about current operations. Or did you also look at it with John here relative to the idea of moving the highway garage?
So, you know, John's aware of what the future plans are. We discussed it and he, you know, we specifically, he was with us that day, the meeting, the site visit. Myself, the owner of Homeland, who's a resident of Lewisboro, and Jan and John, we were there and we looked at this location directly behind the salt dome. He's currently using it for staging of some asphalt millings that he has back there. And he said, no problem, we can have that space. It's roughly over 3,000 square feet. To get your bearings, that darker kind of that's a retaining wall of approximately 5 feet in height. The brownish rectangles are equipment pads that would be designed for the commercial carriers, the Verizon's, AT&T's, T-Mobile's of the world. We have the smaller brown square that would be reserved for public safety, fire, police, EMS. We have a pad for fuel propane. The reason why we would go with propane here is proximity to the wetlands. We would need a DEC permit, obviously. We're out of the wetlands, but we're within that 100-foot buffer. Same thing as when we were built at LVAC. We went through that process, obviously. We have gates that are shown there. You know, John's able to get his trucks around that gravel driveway. One of the LEs has some dimensions of widths. It's roughly 25 feet at the higher point. I think it's 15 feet at the lower point. We had ballards to protect the meter backboards and so forth. So John was fine as far as being able to maneuver his equipment around the salt dome with the tower back there. In addition, if you go to another slide, Tony, I think it would be maybe I don't think it's on that one, it'd be.
Before we go to the
Sure.
next slide, would there be screening to keep separate the space of the cemetery?
So we haven't proposed any screening right now. These are just draft lease exhibits. If this goes forward in our dialogue with the town, which we hope it would after all this time, we would present very detailed zoning drawings that would have all sorts of details like landscaping on it. I can tell you from a tree removal perspective, there would be 4 trees that would be planned to be removed. Those are 4 pine trees that are closest to that retention wall. I think just putting that wall in, taking the roots out would diminish those trees, but they're not offering any screening. In the back there, you've got all the wetlands. There's no homes over there.
I've been there with the superintendent of highways. I know what the property looks like.
Yeah.
That, and what you're saying is not my understanding of what John's view, John Winter's view is of the Salto property, because I had a conversation with him following that. And based on my conversation with John, there's not much room over there to do anything. And that's allegedly one of the locations that the town was looking to move the highway garage over to. And there's no room to move the highway garage, to have the salt dome, have the cell tower, have a septic, and I don't know whatever else. So it was my understanding based on and John's here. Not that I want to put you on the spot, but you are here.
I'm on a spot.
It's not my understanding that it was actually ideal or that he could barely use, he doesn't have enough space as it is there. So.
Well,
John-
the impression I got is that he's using it all.
Yes.
Let me, and John could, you know, we've looked at the drawings for the proposed highway garage that were designed 20 years ago, but they were nowhere near that site. The highway garage would have gone where the driveway is. It would be here in this area.
This map is just not good for me.
That's where it would be.
Yeah. Closer to the police station.
Correct.
That'd be good to get one without that.
And there's no, then that's nice, but it's not gonna fit all the trucks and all the equipment. And all the things that John does at that salt dome, in addition to the highway garage. So maybe since John is here.
Yeah, he can, you know, speak if he wants, John.
I don't want to steal this guy's presentation.
Yeah.
I want to finish and I'm happy to comment.
Yeah, beautiful, thank you.
Okay, your next slide.
Yeah, you wanna, let's see here. Let me just shrink this.
Submittal.
This is just more of a close-up of that area itself. The red X's represent the 4 pine trees. And again, we haven't done any tree surveys or any survey work, but those, looks like those 4 trees would be removed. Again, that darker area is well, most likely be a mafia block, retention wall of 5 feet high, approximately in height.
That's a technical term.
Phrase before, what does that mean?
Mafia block is a very common phrase used in the concrete wall building business. It's just basically blocks. Yeah, concrete blocks. They're like 3 feet by 5 feet roughly. They're different sizes.
Similar to the blocks that were used in the Lewisboro Town Park baseball fields.
Okay.
When they're, when the.
What's the precise tower height we're talking about?
130,
130 feet.
130 feet.
Large concrete overshoots.
And we had spoken to Verizon initially, it's been 130, even proposed when it was up in the horse field, which has about 15 feet higher elevation. We spoke to the Verizon engineer, we gave him the new latitude, longitude, and the ground elevation. We're roughly around 534, roughly 15 feet lower than the horse field. And he ran his numbers and his information and came back that 130 would still work for him.
Is there any update? Because I know one of the presentations we're talking about from the county park, which is close to 1,000 feet up, as far as being a possible solution to any of this.
Pine Ridge Reservation.
Yeah, no, not Pound Ridge, up in
Mountain Lakes, you're talking
Mountain
about.
Lakes, I guess, thank you.
Yeah, Mountain Lakes is about 3.5 miles away. It's not going to cover this area at all. Yeah, we're actually in discussions because we have got a site working in the town of North Salem. We actually met with Supervisor Lucas about a week and a half ago, trying to make something work with the county Mountain Lakes. It's very difficult. It's county property. They haven't been willing to do anything as far as allowing carriers to go on the existing tower that's there. They replaced that tower a few years ago for public safety. They've let 0 commercial wireless carriers go on that tower. We're trying to see if they're going to entertain a new tower next to the existing public safety tower that they built.
What's the tower that's there in Mountain Lakes?
It's 160 feet tall, I believe.
And what's the purpose of that?
It's county.
County radio, their own public rural radio system. Communication.
So they just haven't talked about allowing the private carriers.
Even if a tower was built there, it's not going to provide coverage down to this area. It's about 3.5 miles away.
Because it's too far away, is my point.
Yeah.
So is there a maximum, so say 130 foot tower,
Mhm.
is there a maximum range to get positive, cell phone coverage from that?
It's really driven on terrain. Again, it's a science that the signal propagates out, obviously. So it's really based on existing terrain.
Okay.
The maps that the AAB have in their presentation will show how far it propagates out. And when I say 130, and that particular schematic on the screen up there, that's a tower profile. So this tower would be designed for 4 carriers or commercial carriers, and they're all 10-foot separation, so they don't interfere with each other. So whenever you're driving and you see a particular cell tower and you see platforms or levels of antennas, those are all separated by 10 feet. So in this case, Verizon would have the top spot, let's say of 125 feet, the center line for their antennas. Next carrier would be below them at 115 feet. The third carrier would be at 105. The fourth carrier would be at 95.
Do all those carriers on the same pole have the same quality as far as cell phone coverage?
Typically, whoever's on the top, has the best coverage, and that's how the business works. It's not that the person who's on the lowest can't use the site. May not be most opportune, but Verizon would have the top spot here, but maybe on the Leon Levy Tower, AT&T is on the top spot there. I think they may be. It's an old, landline tower. So, and if AT&T came, they'd be second one down here, but on the top at Leon Levy. So it's just how their networks play out. Everybody can't have the same height, obviously.
And Ray, this tower could be a monopine?
Yes, in the AAB's presentation, we had simulations done, photo simulations a while back, and we proposed, we showed both a monopine and a monopole. And, we reserve opinion on it until people really look at it and understand it. I would say that we would redo visuals to some extent because those visuals were done in the horse field, 15 feet higher in elevation. So here we are lower.
Right.
So that's a positive in that essence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tend to do pine trees. I did one in New Canaan next to St. Luke's School. And it was a 90-foot pine tree, and I challenge anybody to drive by it and know it's a tree. Because it fits in so beautifully. When I start getting above 120, depending on the site specific, if there's a backdrop, then it's fine. If it's on a ridge line, it tends to stick out more because you have a pine tree that has a 12-foot branch this way and a 12-foot branch that way. That's 24 feet in diameter, and your eye is drawn more toward a wider profile. I did a site in North Salem off Bloomer Road, 101 Bloomer. That's a 120-foot pine tree. It looks great. It blends into the woods very well. I don't know if a pine tree would be appropriate here, but certainly a design option the town could consider.
So there's no coordination opportunities with what North Salem is doing as far as,
Oh, no, there is. The same Verizon engineer for South Salem is the same Verizon engineer for North Salem. He does all Westchester. So if a site goes in, we've been proposing a site, the Hammond Museum, for a few years. And, it's got some challenges over there. If the site were to go in on Mountain Lakes, he's fully aware of it. He knows about it. But again, the county hasn't been willing to open up their property to date. And Warren Lucas is going to try his best effort to get the county's attention to see if they'll entertain a tower there. It does not negate this tower, still is needed.
Would that help probably not, but I'll ask the question anyway. It was mentioned Golden's Bridge, 138, that area, that spot. I don't think that's.
Yeah, I think the woman who was on Zoom had mentioned that between Increased Miller School and the Highway 138, it's too far away.
Yeah.
So
also in the other direction towards 121.
Yeah.
There's also some gaps there.
So the carriers typically, they build out their networks with macro towers because the towers offer the biggest bang for the buck, the largest footprint of coverage. And typically what we see from the carriers is once a town or an area is built out with macro towers, they will look to see if there's discrete coverage gaps. What I mean by discrete, very small holes. And you could still have a hole on a major road that's carrying 5,000 cars a day, and they would consider a small cell. You may hear that being tossed around. That is not going to solve the coverage gap here in South Salem and the hamlet. Small cells are basically on top of a telephone pole that goes out very small radius. You really see them in dense urban areas, but the carriers have been known to do small cell technology when there's a very small discrete gap that they want to fill.
And you can't use a lot of those small cells together.
You could. It's just, you have to have hundreds of them. It's like, I tell people, I can build a cell tower in the middle of Long Island Sound and have a caisson foundation go down 100 feet. Anything's possible. It's what's really feasible and economical and realistic.
But what we're really talking about here tonight is the location. It's one tower that we're talking about and the recommended location. We're getting really far outside that topic.
I can add one final thing on this draft site plan. When we met with John, as I mentioned earlier, the existing area he has back there for some staging of some asphalt and millings. On the, I guess it'd be the west side of the property, up on top, we show 8 bins that we would build out for the highway department. If you take your arrow, Tony, go all the way up to the top left of the diagram.
Oh,
yes. Those are bins. Roughly, I think we have 8 of them designed, and they can be designed for storage of various sand, asphalt, clippings, mulch, whatever John will want to use that area for. It's kind of current dead area right now. It goes right up onto the town property, which is a stone wall there. You own the property next door to it as well. It's primarily wet.
Yeah. And in terms of the police department, if we move forward with that project, what are some of the benefits we can get?
So what I would say, if you're going to be going forward with the police department, there could be space reserved on this tower for the communication needs. And certainly if and when they are trenching for septic, they can trench for a conduit and put conduit from the tower to the new police barracks. I don't know what that run would be, maybe, 400 feet, whatever, but they would have the opportunity to, do their communications have it on the tower. I don't know what they're using right now. I want to say it's a very small antenna they may have on the roof line of the existing police station. I can't recall exactly what they have. But you know, we find that the towns, they're happy when we build a tower on town property because even on private property, because they're able to do their fire, police and EMS on the tower.
Right. Can that same conduit or conduit next to it carry lines for tapping into a generator?
So the carriers have their own generators. They typically don't like to share because it's their network. They don't want people touching their network. But certainly an area in that compound can be carved out. Each carrier has roughly a 35 kV, it's a very small generator that they use. There's enough space if the town wanted to have a generator for their usage. There's enough ample ground space there.
Okay.
And this draft site plan just came out late Friday. So we haven't sent it over to the highway department. I wanted to send it to obviously Tony first. But this will be revised and get input from John and from the town board and any other departments and committees that you folks have, obviously.
Okay. Any other questions for Ray?
Is this your last slide?
That was.
Yes, there were
last
just
part of the
three,
package?
just three in this one, yes. Yeah. Happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
We know how to find you. If
Yeah.
you have questions, yeah. But thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thanks for answering the
Thank
questions.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, John, did you want to add anything?
I came here to talk budget and I really wanted to.
We always like the big picture.
I'm sure. John Windsor, Superintendent of Highways. I wish this Salt Dome area was larger than it is now. I'm envious of Ridgefield, Somers, Yorktown's working with 10, 20 acres. What are we working with here? I don't know the exact number, but I wish it was larger. I've worked diligently to make it more organized, and the bin where we put the broken up blacktop is new. The guy from Homeland was like, this wasn't here when I was here last time. I said, well, this is the area we work in and this is what we put here and it works for us. Could we potentially move things to the other spot over there? You know, we can move things wherever. I just worry that keep talking about putting septic here and this here, and I tease Tony all the time, well, when's the new highway garage going in? This area just keeps getting smaller and smaller, and it's already smaller than I wish it was. That's my main concern. I'm not an arborist, but I think taking those 4 trees down, well, while you're there, you might as well just cut all the other ones down, because anytime we do any work and we gotta dig through, we're killing the roots. We just take a tree down preventatively, because we know we're just gonna be coming back a year or 2 later, because it's gonna die. I don't know, my main concern is I just wish this area was larger, and we're talking about putting all these things on there. That are just gonna further shrink the area we have to work. It's, the center of town, it's a good spot. I lose phone calls all day, every day. I understand the need. I have concerns that this is a very small work area, and it just, as this meeting goes on, keeps getting smaller. That's, kind of all I have to say. Like I said, I wasn't prepared to come and talk about this tonight. I was here to hopefully hear where we're at with the budget. But I wish the Salt Dome didn't just get a new roof and was in great shape. Because, if it was in poor condition, maybe we could move it and put the highway garage there and the Salt Dome somewhere else. But it would kill me to take it apart, as it before I took over, it was just refurbished and it's in great shape. Unfortunately, like I said, I keep saying the area is just very small, and all my materials and everything are in the photo, below that, it's where we put all our logs and other debris. There's a big pile of rocks over there.
That's here, right? In this.
Like the upper corner there. And we have a bin for wood chips, we have a hole we dump all the things we vac out of the basins out of, and then going towards the existing state trooper barrack, we, you know, all the dirt we haul out when we do pipe work or clean the edges of the road and dig swales out, that all goes there.
Unless
I
you
just-
had all that stuff you cleaned out when you first took over.
I just don't know where we're putting a building, where we're parking the trucks, where we're putting the septic for our building. Unfortunately, it's all wetlands, going, you know.
Well, ideally, if we
Gossip,
build a
so-
septic, it would be big enough so that we could tap into it.
Oh, that's
for
what
your
I'm saying, I feel like we have a lot of irons in the fire at the moment in one particular spot. It just worries me that we're gonna commit to one thing and it's gonna affect the other things. I really just ask we look at the big picture here and get everything on one page and
Yeah,
do
can we,
things in the
can we
right
do
order.
the conceptual drawing with everything on it to see? if
That's
it's-
the other thing I'm gonna say on a personal note.
Let's take Holy Road.
Hello?
Leticus Road, North Say.
You're anxious to leave?
Apparently, Waze is taking me in the wrong direction.
To Lakeshore Drive.
No clue. Hold on, let me shut it off.
That's right.
I'm envious.
On
Reason.
On a personal note, not here as the highway superintendent. I know I couldn't put a front porch on my house, it's too close to the road without getting a variance from my neighbor. I strongly don't like the rules for thee, not for me. Or did I say that, rules for thee, not for me, I strongly disagree with that. So if we're gonna build something on a property line, we need to consult our neighbors that are up against that property line. And yes, you can set aside variances and whatnot. But I don't think it sets the right picture as local government to tell our citizens they have to abide by a certain set of rules and we don't. I hear people say things about that in various topics all day, every day now that I'm part of the government. And it's just, I think we gotta keep that in mind as well. We're gonna build something right on our property line. And you're gonna tell every resident in town they can't. You're gonna get a lot of phone calls. I already get phone calls about this project. I get emails about this project. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind on a personal level. All right, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
The budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
One last comment is.
yeah, come up to the, Mike, if you don't mind.
I did want to clarify that cell towers are a revenue generator and not a cost to the town. Just as a point of clarification.
But I'll also add that the revenue was not a driver for doing this. I would prefer that the South Salem Presbyterian Church receive the revenue. Yeah.
Just because we're talking about budgets, people.
Yeah.
So we won't turn that down.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna stop sharing this and
Everybody's getting up. We all gotta go stretch our legs.
Yeah, at this point, yes.
all right, so now we're gonna talk about the preliminary budget, which
So
was.
Everybody from the cell tower conversation, go home.
If anyone, yeah, Ray, if you want to leave, you're more than welcome to stay, of course, but yeah. And yeah, there will be a public comment, so if you want to stay for that, I mean, you will, okay. But there's public comment, but there's no interaction.
Right.
But yeah, you could, yeah, if you want to say, listen, that's fine, yeah. So, okay. So Annie, so maybe you can come up to the mic, you know, at a high level, what I can say is, Annie's been diligently working with our department heads, and then her and I have been connecting on how we've transitioned from a tentative to the preliminary. And so we started off at a 14 point based on the requested budget, so it was a 14.6% tax rate. We're down at 5 point. That would be the tax rate. So the increase would be that minus the 2.51 tax cap.
Right, we're supposed to be at the 2.51 tax cap, that's what we're aiming to get to.
Right. So currently now with the revisions that have been distributed to the board today, we're at a rate of 5.61. So we're still 3 points above the tax cap. And
Which is how much money?
How much were we supposed to work with?
No, how much are we over the tax cap by?
161,000, and if you include the special districts, it's 266.
Yeah, special districts are a different scenario,
Yeah.
so we're gonna focus mainly on general.
Yeah.
So that's
161,000
853.
to get to the tax cap, and that also assumes a portion of fund balance usage.
Do you want me to put up the spreadsheet on the screen?
Sure.
As we.
Did you say that last part about that assumes on the fund balance?
We do have a portion of the fund balance factored into the calculation of the tax cap as it is right now,
325.
325, correct.
Oops.
Just for our viewer, is the volume back on by any chance, Sean?
Yeah.
Are people hearing?
It's working.
Excellent. So my question for Annie was, when we started this project in the beginning and we were going through this whole budget process, 2.51% is not a huge amount of money. So I think one number that the public hasn't heard and one number that I never heard up front was, well, from last year's budget to this year's budget, how much money is a 2.51% tax increase? How much more does that give us into the budget?
$209,000.
200, so we were only allowed to if we stay in the tax cap, we are only allowed to increase taxes by $209,000.
Right.
And, you know, we've had asks from independent departments well over $100,000.
Asks and trends of utilities going 10 to 15% up, software costs, we're getting hit.
License fees.
Right.
$209,000, although it does, you know, it is a tax increase, 2.51%. It's not a lot of money. And
How much for a household then?
it's not a lot of money, and that's what we're trying to do. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's important when the public is watching us sit here, and not me for much longer, but watching us sit here and contemplating a potential $10 million police station. Hopefully, we're going to get donations and grants and all that kind of stuff. Well, don't panic, Dave. He was estimating like $7 million, but that didn't include a lot of other things. I know you'd like it to be lower, but if we're contemplating a multi-million-dollar police station, and we're contemplating in the future moving or we're renovating a highway garage, and we just purchased a new building, and we need new police cars, and we need new trucks, $209,000 doesn't buy us much of anything. And we're sitting here listening to people come in and give, you know, budget presentations. We still got a pool house to finish. We've got a leak to fix. We've got all sorts of things all over town. So when we're sitting here and debating which departments and, you know, the library, how much money everybody's getting, we're not dealing with a lot of money to parse out amongst the various.
But some of those other projects, like the pool house, the appropriations have been made already.
No, they.
So, yeah.
But we've got other things up and coming in the parks, and, you know, we've got, as we know, our buildings are deteriorating. We have to keep up with Onitru. We've got, you know, we've got things, we've got infrastructure coming. So, you know, when we're trying to improve ourselves and we're trying, $209,000 is not a lot to spread across the entire town. So we ask that you be very patient with us as we go through this process, and we're not looking to punish anybody or, you know, like favorites with anyone. It's a really hard decision to make where to put this money.
And usually what I do is I've been presenting since I've been on the board, the pie chart that shows our sliver compared to the school district, compared to county, fire districts, et cetera. So hopefully at the next go round, I'll have that. And I think Annie, you already have something like that already, I think, but we'll. And I use my examples. I use my own personal example and what the impact is to me on my assessed value for my.
Approximately 1/7. Give or take. 1/7.
That it's a lot, I'm saying.
Approximately 1/7.
I think you're all missing.
The percentage of.
I think, if I may, Councilmember Rendo is trying to say that we're trying to be very mindful of the budget, and we're focused on a very small amount of money compared to the total budget.
That's correct. The county
Small.
only would like us to raise it 2.51%.
State.
That's with their state. But we're dealing with the comptroller and the county, and that's where we are. So they're really telling us, we only want you to be able to add an additional $209,000 to your budget. And that is almost,
Even though inflation's higher than,
Exactly.
right?
it's
Yeah, it is insane, but that's
Nice.
Well,
But that's our challenge, and here we are.
well, I had, circulated a proposal to close the gap about a week ago.
Yeah.
So you seem to be on board with what we were talking about, and so gave one path from here to there. And when I circulated that to the board.
Right.
which takes fund balance, which we're trying to
It does.
get away
yeah.
from using too much
So we
fund
did-
balance.
So, but
Yeah.
let's talk about fund balance for
Yeah.
a minute, because I think everybody has questions about that. With the 2023 audited financial statements, the town was around $6.5 million. We used 540,000 of surplus to balance last year's budget, and we still added almost $500,000 to fund balance. We're at over 7 million. So I completely stand by the use of the fund balance to balance last year's budget, and I stand by that same approach this year. The 325 I have in here is lower than what we did last year. I'm hoping to do less rather than more, but to close the gap without going over the tax cap, I think is a goal we should focus on.
and you also have a capital line that you add.
So I tried to put capital within this. The tax rate that we have, it's impossible. That was a big part of where the highway budget came in, it looking very high, because I told him to put a capital line in, because I want him to feel supported. And I wanted to see what that looked like within the tax cap, and it just blew it over, so. But I did, after talking to John, and John made a lot of revisions to his budget, which I appreciate, he was really thoughtful about it. We had a conversation with CNA, the financial advisors, and we are in a really favorable place to borrow. The rate that we were quoted is less than what the high yield is earning, so essentially we'd be making that interest payment in the money that we have in the bank. So it wouldn't be a huge cost to the town when that debt starts to come due. So I think the next course of action to get the departments what they need as far as equipment and vehicles and update the fleets is gonna have to be a borrow. So we'll get to that, later in the process.
So, yeah, that piece of what I was talking about is Annie, when we were talking in one of our conversations, was from 325 to 450, and the predicate for that was twofold. One, our fund balance increased net about $1 million more, because we had about 300 and change more by way of expenses, and we had a 1.3 pickup on the revenue side. So that was a net of about $1 million. So when I posed the question when we had our auditor here, if we were basically to do the same thing as we did previously, would that be sound? And the answer that we got in response to my question would be yes. And we're not doing the same as to the numbers we're talking about, as the background music helps me.
That's not me this time.
It's like singing you off the stage. Okay, so it's 100,000 less is what we're talking about, 540 versus 450, close to that. So
We still want to maintain that 43%
And
ratio.
so I do have, I
Fund
shared
balance too.
the picture of this a few months ago, and we were talking
Yep.
about using fund balance for the building, which we
Mhm.
got the bond resolution instead, but. So if we started at that $7 million number on January 1st of 2025, we've used, we've used about 1.2 million to purchase highway trucks. We paid off a paving ban. We funded the on-a-true bathroom renovations, and we funded the pool bathhouse, a swing in Vista Park, and the balance of a police vehicle, which the chief had funded 79%. From other sources, and we met him with 14,000 from that. That came to about 1.2 million of uses in 2025. Even if we use this 450,000, we'll be at 47% of a fund balance.
Wow,
And
that's
higher
great.
than the median. Mhm.
That's really great.
So when Rich came up with that scenario, I made sure to run that number to make sure we weren't dipping any lower.
So you checked my math and it came out okay? Okay.
Thank you for checking his math.
We went through this process last year and Annie proposed using fund balance. You guys remember I hesitated quite a bit to use anymore to see how it went.
Yep.
There's an experiment this year because, you know, this town, historically speaking, got itself into a really bad place once, and Leo Masterson very carefully kept that fund balance sacred, and I don't think he even let anybody look at it or know what was there until it was back and healthy again.
I came and that's all out there.
That's all I know. But I feel better now after seeing how we progressed throughout the year. I mean, not so much with the expenditures, but the fact that we were still able to keep a healthy fund balance and stay within that range. But also to hear that the 500,000 that we appropriated to balance the budget, we got back.
Exactly.
And that was my fear,
Mhm.
that it wouldn't replenish itself. So it makes me feel more comfortable using a fund balance that you recommend to get us to the tax cap this year.
So Tony, that assuage your concerns as far as the.
Oh, no, Annie knows this. I've always been in favor of tapping into a fund balance. So that convinced me that we should minimize that. And I agree. I mean, we should get to a point where we get to a balanced budget, right? Where you're not tapping into fund balance.
On that count, what does this 2025 year look like in your mind? Or in terms of what we end up, whether we get a net surplus there?
I think 2025, we're in a really favorable place again with the building revenue, and it was budgeted very low. Kevin, the building department met that number in June for 2025, and so everything on top of that has just been additional. I think we're at 1.3 million of building revenue right now. And it was
That's right.
2025 was
Yeah.
budget.
So we may need to pick up another maybe $250,000 to $500,000.
Well, we have to see where the expenses end up. Like the auditors presented, we did go over on some expenses, so it's a net of the two, but that certainly is a help. That we.
Okay, and we still have to
did well.
bond for the
Excuse me?
building. We haven't put out to
We
market.
haven't borrowed yet. I would like to borrow to get the balance back up in the month of December, so when we close out 2025, it's there again. But right now, we took it out to outlay the cash, but we will pay ourselves back.
So
So that 47% or so, is that reflective of having that 2.2 million? No, it's not, right? So we would actually be going higher
Yes.
than the 47.
right, so
That's
so if we pick up that 125, so on the tote board, we're 36,000. Then right above where we need to reduce another 36,000, right?
Right, if you go to the second, yeah, there you go. That's what we're speaking of, Rich, the 161. So, yep. So that would,
So we need to
Right.
find another 36,000 to get us to the cap, right?
correct. If everybody agrees to use additional fund balance outside of the preliminary.
Right, assuming we're
Right.
on 125, then we have 36 less left to get there, right?
Right. But so since I think everybody wants to know like where the spending is going. So
Well, maybe we can
overall,
take that piece, is everybody okay with that? Making that change?
Well,
Well,
we make him,
he's talking about, Rich is saying to put the fund balance usage in the preliminary. You want to put it in there now?
Yeah, so then we'll address that issue.
Yeah, so what's your final?
Yeah.
What's
It would
the
be
proposed number?
450,000 instead of 325.
can we take some out of highway? Where's John?
Oh, don't even.
don't
I
even,
went from 18% to 3.
You sure did.
yeah.
I just,
Can I do next?
thank you, John.
Yes.
You started it.
It's
All right, boys.
just, I know, just a perspective, so based upon where highway is now, what's their percentage increase year
So-
over year as it currently stands?
Right now, this file may show a different number, but 3.75 is what John came down to. 3.75% increase over
Year over year.
2025.
And how does that, based upon the version we have now from today, how does that compare to the other departments? and
How does it compare
percentage
to the
wise?
other departments? So
You have those figures available?
I do. I can say that share, so John was really thoughtful, like I said, and went back down. This shows 3.48% because we did a small adjustment to the laborer position depending on timing. But I think John confirmed that we're gonna hire for the full 12 months, so I think it'll be 3.75 as its increase over 2025. So that's highways piece, facilities and shared shared services is 10% over 2025
That's Joel,
in this version. Yep.
okay.
Police.
Is that this?
Yeah. Yep,
Okay.
Today's version,
okay,
basically.
this is today's,
It's
yeah.
The night, November 24th circulated.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I don't know that you
10%.
guys got this sheet, because I just kind of created this so that everybody could see where the expenses are coming from. I sent it to you, yeah, that's the one. Good.
The one you copied for me, thank you graciously.
Still on.
Okay.
Sure. So yes, facilities and shared services, this is like, this is where we see the utility increase in software costs. So
There's nothing we can do about that.
no, and we went through it with Joel
Yeah.
a number of times, sitting with him, seeing where we could find it, and because we willed it down to 10.29% of an increase. So that is an $89,000 difference to where he would be versus the tax cap. PD is a 9.77% increase, namely because of the 2 new full-time hires.
Which we need.
Absolutely. So that's where you see PD is like about $120,000 over the tax cap there, but it's necessary. We need to fund those police officers. We're keeping those positions. So then highway is on here next. This shows 3.48, but like I said, that should really be 3.75. He was about 60,000 from the tax cap, which I think is close enough. And then Parks and Rec came in at 2.63 after I had Nicole go back and kind of rework her numbers to show the programming breaking even. So that really worked out to she's right where she needs to be. And the last piece I wanted to highlight is an expense that's completely out of our hands is retirement's gone up 12% for 2026, and that's a known bill. We don't have a choice there.
And those are mandatory state contributions we have to make.
But that's the bill that comes due. We can either prepay it in December or we pay it in January, but we're gonna see that $500,000 come out.
As we are legally obliged to pay.
And we're happy to do it.
Yeah.
So where's the library percentages are currently?
The library percentage would be if you go onto the general fund tab, Tony. So this is where we'll see all of the departments. Just as a general note, right now, the preliminary budget assumes a 4.5% salary increase for handbook, administrative and UPSU full-time employees. So that is a preliminary estimate. I wanted to give more than has been given in other years because all the department heads proved to us that compared to other towns, we're relatively underpaid. So that's where we put in 4.5% as an assumption in this version. But that's basically a lot of the increase for the other departments is salaries and benefits. So the library is its own line. Right now, the preliminary version assumes the library at a 4% increase over 2025. And we had a lot of discussions about this too. We asked all the departments to do their best to come to that 2.51%. We're just kind of holding library in that same regard. Hoping that we can get to around 4%. They can work with around 4% of an increase over 2025.
So that's what you factored in there now?
That's what we have factored in, yes, we just asked that one.
So do you have
Can
any,
you exited that?
oh,
please?
sorry. You have any thoughts about the last 36?
I have any thought about the last 30.
The last 30, the last 36?
6,000.
I do. We have some unknowns in here. I have a 4% assumed increase for health insurance, and I think that's hopeful. We'll have to see where that comes in.
And
We should be
that's-
getting that bill in the next 2 weeks,
that should
so
come
we
soon.
should know what that 2026 number is. I hope that stays where it is, but there's a possibility that might go up, and then we'd have to find more than 36, but.
So one point I just want to make here is that the general fund appropriations were at 4.85%.
Increase over 25.
So, one proposal has been, so on the employees, so Highway initially had proposed, if I understand it, an MEO. As well as 2 laborers. That's what was proposed initially.
Laborer for 2 full additions to the team, 1 MEO, 1 laborer.
That's so the proposal was 1 MEO and 1 laborer.
Correct.
And 1 laborer is what we're going with, right?
Yes, so in our conversations with John, it's just a matter, our approach from tentative to preliminary this time was to see what we could push to 2027 where we can, just because this tax cap is so challenging. So it's just asking to space things out the same way we would like a capital purchase, just to space it out. to give us a little bit more
So
room in 2026.
one proposal that's in here is for an additional employee for the court system. What's the cost for that?
$45,000 is that salary that's in here. We brought that down slightly just because of timing with civil service paperwork and when the person would actually be able to start. But right now we have that at like a March, April start date for that full-time position.
That's a full-time position, and that is that 45,000 number inclusive of salary as well as benefits?
No,
It's just salary right now. We don't know what the benefits election would be, so that's another.
And do we know what it would
potential
go to if we cut it to part-time? Which we,
I'm not sure. So I got the salary figure from Robin, so
Mhm.
I guess she would have to go back and see where counterparts are part-time court admins.
Yeah, we can still have that discussion about part-time.
Right, so right now it's in here at the request, the full-time administrative.
So we don't know approximately, if we had a part-time, what would be we
Yeah,
did
yes,
approximate
it would be
cost saving?
About half, I guess,
Half of the 45.
yeah. Maybe $22,000 of savings, maybe
And the part-time how would that work as far as benefits?
no benefits for a part-time employee.
So the 45 all cost as far as the benefits would be another.
If they do a
Depends.
master plan, it's $40,000 cost to the town.
So the 45 is really 80. So
Could
it's
be.
really 80
Could be.
is the total cost of the town,
Yes.
right?
And we're 17,000 if they went on individual coverage, but
Yeah.
possible.
Social security too. for the-
Sure, yeah, that's factored in there.
So around 45 is that taking into account budgetary wise for what the benefits would be?
No,
So it's actually.
it's assuming that the.
It is for
might
Social
not
Security.
To go on our coverage, but that would be something we would have to come up with once that decision is made
So-
or hired.
Okay, so the 45 is really 80.
Could
For the placeholder. 80. So. Yeah.
Did we do the same with highway, with the highway hires? I don't think we put
Like
in
we
for,
factored in benefits for
Yeah.
that position.
So, yeah, my
But there is an increase in the benefits line all around for the billing anyway, so I'm hoping it's absorbed. We have some general lines where we try to capture these one-offs that would then be moved to the
Right.
line where it would end up.
So if we. Let's say for second quarter, starting I got a part-time person starting April 26, number then would be. For a part-time would be approximately what? How much do
I
that?
want to say 20,000,
3/4 of that 45.
yeah.
Let's say 45%, 10, 9,
okay.
12 with it. Yeah, so I mean, at least as a transition year, I think we should most have a part-time. Person for the second quarter. That's not what you want to add.
34,000,
Versus
45.
45.
Well, the 45 is really 80.
It's,
Unloaded.
it's,
Yeah.
it's more, but you know, the difference is 3/4 of 45 is 33,750. So it's
So
not
we started in April,
Yeah.
what you're saying, not if
Yeah.
they went part-time.
right,
Part-time would be less.
right.
Right. That's what.
I say,
Okay.
I mean,
So
we need to discuss that point
nitpicking,
further.
yeah.
We
I think there's a few personnel items that are still
Yeah.
like moving
Yes.
pieces in this
Yeah.
budget, which you all will have to
Deal
discuss
with,
and
right.
decide.
So if
Okay.
we went with the $450,000 from the
Fund balance.
fund balance, that would keep us under the tax cap.
We still have to find a.
No, we have to-
Still have to find
36,000.
$36,000, which is what.
We're 4.19. Yeah. Increase under the districts.
Not to go in a backwards direction. I just one question I wanted to ask as far as in the receiver of taxes part. You have a proposed increase for interest and penalties from 180 to 275.
Yes, for the revenue items that we increased, I took a 3-year average and looked at where it was. So it's been budgeted, those revenue items have been budgeted low, so I looked at a 3-year average and brought that up a little bit, especially in year to date, they're over that number.
So we were hyper conservative, but this is in the I guess in the mean where we've been. Median.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a more realistic approach to what the
And
numbers actually.
also on the revenue side, Lisa agreed to raising mortgage tax revenue to 625,000, an increase of 25,000.
Yeah, we had it early in the process. She was comfortable based upon.
She was went from
County
550
feedback.
to 600, and then just
Last week, Friday, she said
she went up to 625 because of the trend that we just got the numbers through October, and she was comfortable going up to 625 given the current trend.
All right, so we had. Well, in place as far as solidifying that projection.
Okay.
So. So the next step is to,
And there was,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and you mentioned this, the longevity.
We can't
It's
touch.
contractual.
No, I know, I didn't finish my sentence, so no. What we talked about, but the supervisors,
Right.
and eligible, that's coming out.
I think that was a number that was in the 2025 budget and it was not paid this payroll,
Right.
so I assume that comes out. I spoke with Cheryl, who works on payroll with me, so I think we confirmed that longevity is not owed for another couple of years.
Get the 5 years.
Oh, for me.
Next year.
Maybe good for you.
forever.
It's there. So if, in order to properly notice, right, we're scheduled a public hearing.
Yeah,
for
we're
the
gonna,
budget.
we have two
on
items,
the 8th.
right, the public hearing and then, go ahead.
Correct, just. Right, so I was getting to that next. That we have to adopt a preliminary budget, but we need to adopt it with the changes that we all agree on. Based on conversation, so we need to agree on what those changes are, number one, and number two. We talked about technically, reading changes into the minutes, but they can be provided by way of like. Schedule, a summary.
This
To be
bill is
attached.
that, you have a column for the.
Yeah.
Some of these things have changed now, now that we've been discussing it, they've
Yeah.
now changed.
But I think any changes now will go into the adjustment column before they adopt it.
Correct.
So you'll
That-
see them all on there.
Right.
We'll put them in the same way we did with this preliminary version.
So without that 36, so what's our number, you know what that would be?
Without the.
Without the 36.
You mean the tax cap
Yeah.
number?
Look, she said 4 something.
4.19.
Right now it's at 4.19, but if we got the 36 would put town and highway at 2.51. With the use of the fund balance.
Which we hear you thinking, you've got another
No.
question.
Yeah, so if I did, just
Please.
for argument's sake here. That brings us down to. Oh, wait a minute.
No, see, that takes the other districts into.
Oh, yeah, so.
We're 2.59 because you're off by $853, so.
Yeah, so we're.
2.51 for town and highway.
We're at 2.6, yeah, town and highway. Okay,
If we did what? Up the fund balance?
in highway to
4.6.
36.
Then we find $36,000, other state.
Yeah.
The districts are not included. in
All right,
this
so we're still
concept.
looking for an additional 36,000.
That's the moral of the story. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So this budget right here, as reflected on the screen now, is what we want to adopt as the preliminary budget subject to public hearing on the 8th?
I would say yes. Is Annie,
Yeah.
you in agreement? Okay.
Wait, are we? What's the final tax increase?
So it's 4.19 inclusive of all of the two districts.
And
For folks outside of the district,
for
it
the
would be 3.04.
highway and town, it's.
Yeah, highway and town
under
is
the cap.
3. 4.
So it's not under the cap.
Not
Correct.
this preliminary version.
Not in the preliminary version.
We're
So we,
$36,000 over.
If we find $36,000 to cut,
Gotcha.
then we'll make the tax cap.
Yes.
So it's part.
or we take that from surplus, from fund balance.
So
We absolutely can't find it.
So basically what happens is if we adopt a preliminary budget as here, that's the one that gets published and then goes on for public hearing. And then there's really, we can talk about changes, but no more changes. My understanding is
After the public hearing.
it can be made until after the public hearing, and then we make the changes on the record and then adopt that final budget.
I'm okay taking, like, if we could make up half with the part-time clerk in the court and half with the balance, I think, I guess is there.
Close.
But that's the discussion we're still gonna have.
Yeah, this is just the preliminary.
No, we get,
So
I
we
mean,
can
we
still
could,
change it.
no, but I'm saying we could adopt it and then we have one basically at the cap.
Yeah, we can adopt it and we can make additional
Right.
changes inclusive of that one, potential.
Right.
Yeah.
We have the option of doing it now and we have it.
No, we're gonna discuss it like we already had said, we're gonna discuss it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So council,
Okay, so it's a motion to adopt preliminary budget, which is the tentative budget with the amendments on the schedule dated 11/24/25.
should we
Well,
motion
The
the,
additional change to the fund balance contribution that we just made.
Yeah, which is.
It is on.
it's all,
It's on there.
but do we need to do the tax override resolution first?
Yeah,
No, you just have to pass the override before you pass the budget.
For the adopted budget, yeah,
Right.
okay,
39%.
okay.
So in light of that, which now currently equals what as we currently stand for adoption of the preliminary budget, what's the current number?
4.19%, the current rate.
That's correct.
It's right there. Mhm.
Okay, I'll just-
Yeah.
Okay.
Might not be able to see it when it's.
It's right there in that screen. that
The
you can
second
see.
page of. Well,
Just checking with our controller that it matches up. Okay.
yes. Good match. Thank you.
The magic of Excel.
So. you have a
Okay, so
motion, what do we-
was that your motion? Or
Okay.
did you motion?
I did that, but I can, sure, motion to adopt the preliminary budget at the 4.19% number is spelled out during the meeting and confirmed by our controller.
Second.
Discussion.
oh, thank goodness.
No, we already had discussion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Congratulations, Amy.
thank you, Eddie.
Thank
We're not there yet, though, right?
We've made great progress. Thank you.
Oh,
So,
it's exhausting.
so I'll go ahead and motion that we set the public hearing for the 2026 budget for December 8th.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll also motion that we set a public hearing for the proposed override of the state tax cap legislation for December 8th.
Second.
Discussion,
That is just a belt and suspenders approach to make sure in case something happens that we have the paperwork in order.
We'll just set the hearing.
yeah, we're setting a hearing for it,
That,
right?
Motion second, we had a discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's it for the budget. So next is the back to the police station. This is a proposal from KSCJ for the work related to the new Lewisboro Police Department. So they did the initial work of the septic field perk tests at no charge, but this is the additional work that is required for the next steps.
And this is not.
And it's all identified
And is
here.
it- Was it told?
The total is 8,500.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, hold on a second. 85 plus the 35, two components.
So it's 12, right?
So it's a total of 12.
Yeah, motion to set not to exceed 12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
wait, council, do we need to,
Oh.
council, do we need
Spending money,
to?
so we need.
Any expenditure, sorry, I'm talking about.
And just one point I'd like to make, this is being paid through a donation. So,
Excellent. Thank you to the donor.
Do we, so
roll call.
Thank you.
Aye.
Andrea? Aye.
Mary Shaw, aye.
Yeah, well, shy.
I didn't know if the donor wanted to be announced, so.
Yeah, I don't think we,
Yeah, we had already announced his initial donation, but yeah, but I didn't get permission to announce it again, but yeah. I'm gonna skip the next one because I'm not ready for that. The Oak Ridge Sewer Emergency Repair. I'm still waiting on some additional information. I thought I'd have it today. I don't have it.
So we're tabling them.
Tabling that for next meeting.
So we don't need a
Okay.
motion to table it.
Right. Next is public comment number 2 for the new.
emergency repairs for.
Oh, no, that goes away. That's tabled as well.
You're still trying to get.
Calls for-
That's a discussion, so you don't have to pay for that. But if the-
It's a discussion, right?
Should table the resolutions for
Yes.
the RBCs.
Okay.
Right, that was actually an action
Correct, okay. So motion to table the Oak Ridge Sewer Emergency Repair of the rotating biological contactor. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have public comment number 2 for the new business items only. Anybody here would like to say anything?
Does that include cell tower?
Yes.
I'm Cindy Rubino, Director of the Lewisboro Library. I also live in Vista. I just wanted to add about the proposed cell tower as well. I believe that the coverage area includes the library. Many people work at the library who live in town. And also we have functioned as a warming center, a cooling center, and also an emergency center using the generator 3 times for a week each in the public, in the natural disasters that we've had. And having, the cell tower, the cell service obviously stinks in the library as well, as you know from here. Just won't go through. If you have a telephone call, it shows up hours after the fact. So I just wanted to point out that we do sometimes serve as an emergency center. And I think that having the cell tower would benefit people that come to the library to take shelter.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Anyone else?
I'm Stephen Unterhalter. I'm a resident of South Salem, and I am the treasurer of the Lewisboro Library. I heard the difficulty that the town has had in coming up with a budget, staying under the budget cap. And I appreciate that these are difficult times. I would urge, though, or request that the amount of money allocated to the library, the subsidy from the town, be increased somewhat. We have legal increases that for our salaries and benefits that greatly exceed the amount that you've allocated. That they are 7%, and those are state mandated increases. They're nothing that we want to do on our own. In addition, utility costs and insurance costs are going up. The library is running now at pre-COVID levels, which is something that our community has asked us for. I don't know what our final budget will be, depending on what the town gives us, but we are going to have to make cuts somewhere. And I would just urge the board to please be more generous in helping us meet the needs of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? No. How about over Zoom?
Yes. Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
How is that? Can you hear me?
You're unmuted, Barbara, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I could hear you.
This is what she had before. I think her computer is the one that's the different.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Barbara. Joe.
That could be on my end. 1 second here. Shot.
Okay, Barbara, I'll ask you to mute again.
Can you hear me?
No, let's see.
Still not working. I'll come back to you, Barbara. Let's try Joe Mano. I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for the discussion on the budget. I really do appreciate that. I think for the future, and I understand your comments that the town budget is significantly smaller and really a very small slice of the pie of taxes that we pay in this area. But as a taxpayer, unfortunately, I get the entire pie. And so although you're talking about just a small sliver, Every dollar that goes over is an extra dollar out of my pocket. Dan, I appreciate you taking the budget and allocating it on a household basis. Although I'd appreciate it if you let me, the homeowner, decide how much I want to pay in taxes on an annual basis. It doesn't seem like taxes ever go down, and it doesn't seem like there's any productivity in the budget to figure out how to make anything potentially even less expensive. From a budget standpoint, the way we used to do it in corporate America is we would start at an overall number that said, overall, we're going to come up 3%, which is what inflation would be this year. And then we would work the budget down from that number as opposed to working up. I appreciate the reason why you might want to start from the bottom up to make sure everybody has what they think they need. And ultimately, a budget process is about deciding what is really a need versus a want. And though I appreciate that we all want things, we would love for everybody to have lots of benefits, lots of jobs, etc. Ultimately, we have to make some hard choices. And I think that's what the tax cap allows us to do as a community. It sets a top line number. So though I understand all the difficulties of finding this, that's what the budgeting process is essentially centered around, which is making hard choices. So I appreciate all your time in making these difficult decisions. But ultimately, to me, it's fairly simple. There's a tax cap. We should start with that number and work our way down. If there's a mandatory increase of medical or dental or some other budget somewhere from the state, you have to take that out of somewhere else. That's how it works. Otherwise, we just continue to raise taxes forever, and that really is unsustainable. I really wish not only at a local level we could figure this out, but at a federal level as well. It's obvious that the fiscal management of this country and the local town is run with the same concept. And so I think we really should readdress that and take a look at that. And I really do appreciate seeing all the numbers from Annie. So thank you very much for that. I'm assuming that'll come out somewhere on the website. So thank you for the details and your hard work in getting to what are the tough choices.
All right, thank you, Joe. Barbara, we'll ask you to unmute.
Is it working yet?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of comments. Getting back to the court, which we discussed under new business because I asked where the court would be going. Again, back in May with my email to the town board, I did mention my concerns about buying a building that was over 100 years old and whether or not it needed updating when it was going to fit our needs. And I was told that we wouldn't be buying any property and any buildings that needed major renovations. However, now if we're going to put the court in there, the building is going to need work. How much is that going to be? You know, we were basically told this building was going to fit our needs and that we wouldn't have to invest a lot in it because it was in good shape. But now putting the court, you're changing the footprint of this building. So now we're talking about more money that people have to pay. And just getting to the budget itself, I have a lot of questions, but I won't ask them now. I think it's a shame that the highway department has been pushed down to that percentage increase. I think it is, the roads have always been an issue. I mean, I'm here over 32 years now, and so many of the things on these agendas are things that have been around for 25, 30 years. We may have made headway in the last 2 years, but that was only because luckily we had ARPA funds and things like that. So we've taken a budget and basically taken John's budget and decimated it. And I think there's other places you could be taking money out of. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Barbara. Adam Stolro, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Adam Stellaro. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Scythe, Paget, and Rizal, and I represent a group of residents who are organized against the Salt Dome site as the potential cell tower. You know, my experience in dealing with cell tower siting is that forcing an unwanted location leads to litigation and fighting when, you know, really what everyone wants is more and better cell service. And I think it's important to look for creative solutions, which is what the Presbyterian Church steeple represents in this instance. When the AAB was looking at this as a potential site, they actually asked Cityscape, the company that did the county-wide or the Northern Westchester cell tower survey, to take a look at the steeple. And when Cityscape compared the salt dome to the steeple, they concluded that the steeple was similar in coverage to the proposed salt dome site, but that it reduced the predicted coverage of 6 or 7 houses compared to the salt dome. So we're talking about a very similar siting. And, you know, with respect to Homeland Towers, and, you know, their business is building towers, you know, macro towers with multiple carriers, and that's their model. And I understand that the steeple, you know, may not be as attractive a solution as, you know, doing a one-shot, you know, 4 carrier tower at the salt dome. But I think it's important here to take another look at the steeple, and maybe it's not a you know, one tower solution, but I think that given Cityscape's favorable review, that it deserves a look as part of a solution, and that has not been studied. So the AAB and Homeland have not looked at the possibility of combining the steeple with a second concealed site, which would really be a win-win for the town and the residents. So, you know, 2 of the sites that were eliminated, the recycling center and the property next to the animal hospital, were rejected for reasons that would also apply to the salt dome. So the animal hospital site has wetlands and buffer area that cover the lot, and that is, you know, similar to what's going on with the salt dome. You know, I think the wetlands have been noted on those site plans. I'm not sure that they won't even extend farther than that when, you know, when a delineation is done. And as you may know, DEC has extended its wetlands jurisdiction in 2025 to larger areas. And, you know, in terms of the recycling center, it was deemed the best site of all of the sites in terms of coverage. But it was rejected early enough in the process that Cityscape didn't even get a chance to look at it in its report, because it, you know, it had. Okay, well, I urge the town to look at again at the steeple for creative solutions.
Thank you, Adam. Eliza, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, I'm Liza Travellino. I'm a neighbor, but I'm also a member of the church. I'm not arguing for the church. I appreciate all that the antenna committee has done. But I'm thinking that this is a little bit the site of least resistance, and I did a little bit of work for the church, going to other churches that have that have towers, and when you do this, take a look at the site plan that they're going to give you, because when and make sure that it does fit with what you need for this new police station, whatever, because the amount of land that they need is maybe more than you think. And also, once you give it up, it is given up to the carriers, and they have control over it unless you're very creative in how you work it out. I'm just saying, do this with your eyes open, because Homeland Towers is great, but they are there to make for their benefit, and not necessarily for the benefit of other things. Anyway, that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. Simone O'Connor, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. I just want to say shortly, I agreed with a lot of what was said in the public comments. I'm very disappointed to see how far down John Winter's budget has gone. And I feel like, he's going back and knocking down things, which is great on one end. But I do feel a lot of what he has is a need, like Joe was saying before, and not a want. I was lucky enough to have our road paved, and I cannot tell you how great that is. And I have friends on the other side of town who are not going to get their roads paved because of this budget. There are other places I feel that, that can be looked at. I don't know, places such as the library is open on Sundays. Maybe it doesn't need to be. Maybe you save money there. Maybe there's just other areas we could look at. My fear is for the hearing to take place. It's always a done deal by that time. So perhaps there could be a meeting prior to that or something of that nature, because the time the hearing happens, everybody knows. I've seen it over and over again. We come in, everybody talks, they go back and forth, schmooze, 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 everybody says what they want, and it gets voted in. So it's not really in earnest, a work kind of session where the people get to say what they want and it's taken into consideration. So I would ask that there's something in between. But I do appreciate the hard work on everybody's behalf. And I do appreciate John Winter. I really cannot believe he's cut it down that much in trying to work with the town. I would ask that you consider that we need roads and we need roads that are safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's Carol Cernak in South Salem, New York. I would just like to say that the AAB and the Homeland Towers pitch to the town was not completely open and honest. There was things left out of the recommendation that happened at the meetings, the AAB meetings. Specifically that Lynn, an AAB member, asked that she voted for the salt dome, but she wanted it noted in the report that the recycling center was the best option, the best coverage option, and that was not done. So it makes me question, moving forward, where are we going with this? Are we going to believe what, one entity says and not listen to the other side? The other thing is it seems like two historic farms are not being recognized for keeping open space and green space. In particular, one family, this is their legacy. They love this property. They cherish this property. This was from their grandparents and their great-grandparents. On the other hand, Echo Farm, it's been, Al Ridgway's forever, and then it got passed down to Callie. Callie is as passionate about her farm as we are about our farm. She loves her property. She loves her business. She loves what she's doing. And you're going to stick a cell tower, 130-foot cell tower in the middle of it? It's a disservice. It's completely unrespectful. And on the other hand, why does the town of Lewisboro website use Echo Farm and Farview Farm as their opening page on their website? Don't do that. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth, is what you're doing. The other thing, Homeland Towers needs access to the cell tower. How is that going to happen? John keeps that under lock and key. How is that going to happen? Are you going to build another roadway? What's going to happen? 130-story cell tower is 13 stories. It's a 13-story high rise. So think about that. And the square footage for the footprint that they need is 3,500 square feet. That's, I think, just under an eighth of an acre. So think about that. Does John have an eighth of an acre to give up? I don't think so. The other thing is the map that you were using to show town-owned property and the cemetery and the salt dome. You've got the nature preserve listed as cemetery. You got 2 cemeteries and there's only 1. So maybe you should fix that. The septic field, how are you not gonna make that a burden for John to work around the septic field?
Sorry, Carol, we found this out.
That's fine, thank you.
All right, thank you, Carol. Dean Travelino, I'm asking you to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dean.
You don't have an echo, do you?
No echo.
All right, good. I have an echo. Well, first I want to mention, since my wife talked a little bit earlier, a different of a perspective. First, our house, we do not see the salt dome, the proposed salt dome in either location. But it's not a case for us of what's in our backyards. But it seems like it's a case for a lot of other homeowners and the town itself, is that we're being led around by a bunch of large corporations and a smaller corporation for their money-making purposes. You know, I appreciate the library does need cell service, but according to the experts, it would be better cell service at the DPW. It would be comparable cell service at the church and comparable cell service at the animal hospital. The church site itself, apparently, according to the report I read, covers some houses better than the other one does. And in all these instances, the Salt Dome Tower helps one little spot on Route 35. This has been true for 5 years, that the carriers want a coverage for their maps, which is important for their marketing. They really don't have our service as their front runner. I also think we're being carried around by them or dragged around by them, because frankly, as they admitted, Homeland Towers doesn't sell any of the new technology. And Joe said, which is a good point, since we started this process, there's been almost a complete turnover from our old phones to internet calling. So that if you had that survey now, you get much different results from the answers you got. And also, cell service is not magic. It still needs a generator, still needs to maintain. If you look at the town park or Leon Levy or Vista, these towers have dedicated roadways that you can get to them at all times. And say an emergency when you may have to get more propane in a hurricane situation, those trucks are an equal lifesaver, if not more, than the limited areas of lost cell tower where you have radios and everything else. And they have to work flat out. They may have to leave large equipment out. This would take away a whole extra section of that area. And also, we just fixed it. Some of the members on this board have responsibility for having ruined that place to commercial operation. You also have my thanks that we got it better with their work supporting the new highway tenant. Is that the time we want to make progress and then go back and churn up the place and ruin it on behalf of a carrier? And my one last thing I want to say. Yep. Right. There's one other thing I just wanted to mention. All right, that's okay. You go. I'm sorry. You go.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So, next are approval of claims. So I provide a motion, we approve claims. So discussion, all in favor? Aye. All to the board. Rich.
Number one, have the giving everyone to look out for the holiday appeals in town. Who's contributed as staff to LVAT, library, ED, if we can. Cell service is very important, paramount, but to the cause for South, well, absolutely have to
good cost benefit analysis, and I'd like to see the towers and the carrier somehow we go through the process that if we undertake those that we will have a significant substantial highly competitive cell service south of and we also have to keep in mind highway space. I'm concerned about highway losing space and not only at Sullivan property, but based upon a foreseeable planning that if we go forward with the sewer district, we're talking about, taking out the recycling property that we have as well. So we're potentially taking away property from highway at two different town locations, so we gotta keep that in mind. As we go into 2026, we have the projects that we have both for the town bill 892, as well as as we please, we should take a look at that from a long-term perspective and plan things out together based upon those foreseeable expensive infrastructure projects and plan those out for how we bond for that. And last, thank you for your hard work in this budget process because this up to this point.
Just happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and thank you for Andy, all the department has put in the hard work to get them also.
Like to repeat the Thanksgiving meeting ceremony, and offering my note of gratitude to those who work and volunteer for the town of Lewisboro, because without our volunteers and town employees, we'd be in really not great place, and Lewisboro is absolutely wonderful. We take this budget process seriously, and we want to make sure that we abide by the needs of the town as well as the laws of the county and the state. We cannot play fast and loose like some corporations do. We are a local municipality, so we have to do things in a way that we are obliged to do. So we have a responsibility to uphold the law as well as meet the needs of our residents. I'm honored to be able to do that.
Yeah. Good budget discussion, we have just not people, but it's true that the highway, parks and rec. And was the third one? Police are, most valued services, but there is an undercarriage under those as well, like they can't exist without facilities, people and all the rest of that, so it's not as simple as to say like that's what we need. But they trouble the rest, but I think there's going to go zero effort on all the appreciate the comments about find anything possible. We still but running pretty clean already. So,
Thanks, yeah. Okay, first I'd like to congratulate Michael Dario. Am I pronounced that right, Chief?
Yeah.
Sure. So today we swore in our latest police officer. So the parts is seeing him out there doing his work to keep us safe. And then we have one more police officer which is swearing in hopefully as soon as we get.
Oh, December, hopefully.
Yeah, early December, so. Yeah, regarding the budget, I thank you very much, Andy. I know we spent a lot of hours and phone calls and sessions going over it, and also with the heads of department. And yeah, I mean, we want to be fair across the board with everyone, including all our employees who are the heart of what makes this town function. Regarding, someone mentioned that we're disseminating the highway budget. I just want to make it decimated. So that's estimated, sorry. Yeah, that's sorry, disseminated information, yeah. So I wanted to make clear that we're not doing that. Highway received a pretty significant budget last year. paving alone was over 300, increased over 300%. Those numbers don't change. Those numbers from last year, 2025, still apply to 2026. So all those roads that were paved in 2025, the same amount can be paved in 2026. So to make that point clear, we're not taking budget away from highway or from any other department. You're just getting a smaller increase. Yeah, everyone can come in and ask, for sort of considerable amounts of doing more work, and I applaud them for doing that. But we do have to get to that point where we keep the tax have in mind and our taxpayers in mind as well.
Have the capital process to go through, and so.
Yeah, so we still have, the vehicle requirements for, highway PD, maintenance, parts and rec. That's still under consideration, part of the capital budget that we're gonna work on early in the year. So I want to make it clear that we're not cutting anyone's budget, and we were very, last year, we did well. I mean, we did allocate a significant amount of fund balance to be able to do those things. And again, we're hoping to continue the good work that we've done this year into next year. And hope to get to a point where we have a balanced budget. Yeah, and as far as cell tower, there'll be more discussions. I mean, I think we need to clearly look, we have a lot of information. We didn't make a decision on this. It took years to get to this point, right? And but we're at a point where we do want to fill gaps now. So that's important. It's important to me as well. The other phone call gonna make is related to the there's a comment about the new building, 100-year-old building, and the amount of money that we're spending. We're actually not spending a lot of money to get that building prepared for town offices and court. And if anybody wants to join me in taking a look at what's been done within the budget that we have, more than welcome to give anyone a tour. And it's looking really good. And it would still be less than building a whole new courthouse and office building. We saw some of the numbers that were tossed around, $5, $6, $7, $8 million. We bought a building for $2.2 million that's going to support a good amount of our operations. So we should be, the sport should be proud of that. So that's all I have. And I think the next thing is the announcements. So we have another meeting on December 8th at 7:30 p.m. here at the Townhouse at 11 Main Street, South Salem. And now I'd like to go ahead and motion that we go into executive session for personnel. I don't. Discussion, all in favor?